All right. Peace, everyone. I think I'm here. I think I'm here. Welcome to Enlightenment and Transformation. We're just getting started. I'm just getting started. Just give me a moment here to get myself together, and make sure we got everything up and running. All right. So yeah, welcome. Yeah, I'll be right back. Give me a second. I just want to make sure we got everything moving as it should be.
Severed from the traditions of our legacy, we now embrace alien philosophies, looking at our rituals with suspicion, disconnected from our divine foundation. We hope instead of know, wish as opposed to acknowledge, anticipate as opposed to create, worship instead of invoke, choking on the phlegm of oppression, suffocating from the ignorance of indigenous wisdom. We forgot our chants, rituals, and rhythms, forgot our initiation systems, forgot about the patriarchal order, forgot the sacred role of water. Connected to being nigga, what happened to our warriors? What happened to the healer, magicians, and drummers? What happened to our shaman, jollies, and dancers? Do we prefer to be ass shakers and gangsters? Giving props to Socratic methods while blatantly ignoring Imhotep. From step pyramid to urine stench projects, history ignored as identity neglect. Can't have self-respect without a healthy self-concept. Deep beyond the calcified, corroded psyche exists a true you, sitting in the lotus position, meditating on liberation, raising your spirit vibration while disintegrating images of self-destruction. First eye to soul, revealing your purpose through visualization.
All right. And I'm back. All right. Since now I'm not really doing the blog talk thing like I was before, or as much, because I guess I'll bring it back at some point. Um, I have to kind of have to play a little bit of music in the beginning, just to kind of lead me in. Yeah, like I said, I'm just used to. We've been doing blog talk for what 6 years, something like that now. So I'm just always so used to your show will start in 10 seconds, and then it does it. Your show will start in 3 seconds. Then it gives you the countdown, and then the red light comes on, and you're moving. So without that, it's like YouTube. You don't get any of that. It's you don't get a digital concubine. So you have no voice giving you the count in. So I'm always like, did we start? Is it going? What's happening here? But either way, welcome to Enlightenment and Transformation. Especially those of you who are tuning in for the first time, welcome. I see the chat room already got a little bit of lovely activity between lovely ones already. So peace to all of you who are filing in, and those of you who are long time listeners, of course. And I always like to give a special bit of energy and solidarity for those of you who come in through the archives, because that's the beauty of this thing. Sometimes, man, you get to come in later whenever you feel like. Monlight. Oh, Brother Justin asked, what is Monlight? Okay, well, Monlight is because Mon, is word when you go to the Latin for hand, right? Mon. So Monlight is the light that comes from the hand. So Monlight is actually like the light that you exchange from each other. Like when you shake hands, there's always a thought that the light comes from your heart down through your arm into the next person's hand. So you share light amongst one another. So, entitling the show Monlight Menage, it's like a menage a trois of light being shared through the touching of hands. So that's what Monlight Menage with the cleric means, Brother Justin. All right. Yeah, okay, all right, you got me. Come on, man, like you never met a typo. but you see how quick I can recover from that though. You see that? I tell you, you gotta watch these online teachers. They're full of crap. Oh, designs. I think some people fell for it. I think some people fell for it. Yeah, no, man. That's a typo. That brother Justin just caught. Thanks, Justin. Thanks. I'll fix it later, man. Yeah, man. I told you, gotta watch these online teachers, man. They slick. They don't admit when they wrong. Keep your eye out for us. He said, I almost believe you too. I felt hard. I was gonna say I hate shaking hands. Well, man actually does mean hand. I saved it. It was a truthful save, but yeah, it was. I was typing quick, man. I'm doing things. I'm doing big things over here. Forget about it. Yeah, so it was a typo, but mon does mean hand. Yeah, mon means hand. But anyway, yeah, man. It's kind of interesting that we have mon that means hand, and you have monetary systems, right? And then in Yoruba you have owo, which means hand, but it also means money. So it's similar. It's like the same thing, right? But yeah. So welcome everyone. Welcome. We got started off with a little funny stuff there, but I see the chat room is filling up, and yeah, I'll fix the title later, man. Maybe I'll fix it now. Yeah, let me fix it now. Yeah, that's one of the. I'd say that's one of the cool things with fix that joint right now for another Weisenheimer points out the misspelling. But that's one of the cool things with the YouTube, I guess, because you can change titles of your shows very easily. On Blog Talk, when you change the title, the link to the show changes. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, man. So we've been covering a lot, I think, this strong. About families and structures and empires and kingdoms, and it seems that I've been kind of following up with folks in between, and getting, people like to share things like that, and they've been really getting a lot out of it. Brother Tareen says the music you play is great for the students. It's like opening the gateway into consciousness. We got a philosopher on our hands. Yeah, thank you. I actually just grab old files, honestly. Whatever feels good in the moment. And I say, yeah, this will work here, that'll work here, that'll work here. But yeah, it's good anyway. Like I told you, I'm an economist, man. I don't really throw too much out. So even when I do songs 15, 20, 30 years ago, I keep them. And I like to hear the growth too. I like to hear the growth, but yeah, man, they still serve a purpose. That's the thing when you're doing things from the heart and you're doing things authentically. They never really get old. You can just like you can always go back and listen to Anita Baker's first project and just fall in love with it all over again. Just an example I'm giving. It was such a pure project. It was so pure. It's like going back and listening to rock hymns or Illmatic from the heart. It just kind of just never gets old. Go back and watch Coming to America. Never gets old. But yeah, man. So like I said, we've been talking about family and structures and things like that, and just kind of building on those concepts. And I think there's been some good questions that have come forth, and like I said, a lot of people have spoken to me during different sessions and stuff, and have expressed how the concept, or I should say the topic, has been really helpful for them. One of the things that was expressed that I'm going to address is that sometimes people feel like, I get these, wow, Chief, thank you for teaching me that, man. If I would have heard that 10 years ago, 15 years, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, my life would have been so much different. And, one of the things is you got to kind of look at sometimes some of the things that we're still hung up on are just they're hallmarks, and they're valuable because they let us know of the kind of growth that we've actually experienced, or the lack of growth that we've experienced. Sometimes you know, like one of the things that's really been on my heart a lot this strong as I've been speaking, especially about family, is how a lot of times the people who are inside of some of this teaching that I offer and other people offer, not just me, you know, how they don't really grow, you know, plain and simple, to put it very simply, how they don't really grow, you know, how they talk a good game, they sit up around a lot of information, and there's no growth. And of course, you know, thinking about family and a lot of the things that hinder people from really being able to have family, especially students and clients who approach me and say, you know, well, this is what I want, and they feel like having certain things, like I don't have a mate and I'm lonely and I'm this and that, and they think that if they have those things they'll find happiness. And you know, when you try to explain to them that no, there's nothing external to you that's going to create an inner fulfillment, it doesn't work that way. But when they're in the grips and throes of their own depravity or their own depression, it's very difficult for them to understand that. It's very difficult for them to accept that. You know, even from me, or you know, someone, they may say, well, he's helping me, he's giving me good information, but sometimes there's those cutoffs where it's like, I ain't listening to that part though. You know, or sometimes, you know, there's certain people who have some really deep rooted issues that they refuse to honestly address, and sometimes you have to address it for them. You have to bring it up and say, hey, well, what about this? What about this problem? What about that problem? You know, and when you do that, they run. You know, those are the people who leave, I knew, and go off and this and now. They just kind of slip into the shadows because they get tired of their isms, you know, if we will, being addressed, you know, and they want to maintain this connection or this identity of being conscious people, quote unquote, or elevated or enlightened people, but they don't want to address some of the core issues that are keeping them from really healing. And, you know, healing is internal. It's not like curing. When you cure something, it's external. You know, you can put some ointment on something and a Band-Aid and cure it. But healing is an internal alchemical process. And a lot of people, they're fine with the curing. You know, put a Band-Aid on it, bandage on it, bandage. We're going to get it out. The third time's a charm. Watch this. Put a Band-Aid on it. Told you I was going to get the third time. Or bandage. Put a Band-Aid on it. Put some ointment on it. Wrap it up. Let me sit out in the sun to smooth out the blemish, and then I'm good to go. But there's no internal healing, man. And a lot of times, sometimes we lose sight of what people have been programmed to be and do from birth. You know, and it's hard to imagine that, especially like when we're seeking spiritual information. I think, no matter of fact, I don't want to say I think, I know for someone such as myself, it's very difficult sometimes to accept or to really even listen to some of the things that I say, because I don't just speak about spiritual information. So, you know, if you're going to hear about family information and cultural information, political information, financial information, so it's very difficult to run. You know, if I was just sitting up here talking about rituals and metaphysics and cosmic forces and the darker arts and occultism, and speaking about it as if it was an abstraction from our world circumstances, then I would be much more easier to listen to and to accept for a lot of people. But, you know, when you also throw in character development, you know, psychological balancing, you know, emotional maturity into the mix, then for many people it becomes very uncomfortable. You know, it becomes a situation where I didn't come here for that. You know, I came here to get some rituals so that way I could create something in my life that would then make me happy. And, you know, a lot of that comes from living in a Western society where we're told that so much of what we are allowed to take in as happiness comes at the result of what we achieve, you know, or what we become successful at. So success brings happiness. Achievement brings happiness. So we have to always have these external benchmarks and these external checklists. And if we can fulfill those checklists, then all of the other stuff you're talking about doesn't matter. So what we do is then we get with a priest or a Baba or the Iya or the psychic card reader, whomever, you know, and we say, okay, Show me how to get a mate. Show me how to get a house. Show me how to get a better car, how to get a better job, or get my business off the ground. Show me how to lose weight, get healthy, whatever it is. All of the things that seem to be the hallmarks and the signifiers of success and achievement. And if we can get those things, then we can say, well, I'm growing. So like a lot of times, even I'll ask people, maybe I haven't spoken to a student in some time, and I'll say like, hey, how's everything? How you doing? How's things going? And they'll start to tell me what they've gotten. And then they'll finish it up and say, oh, well, things are great. I just got a new car. Things are great. I just got a new job. I just moved. Things are great. I got a cheaper apartment. Things are great. You see, but that's not necessarily, a mark of growth. That's a mark of external achievement, which could have zero to do with your inner growth or your inner healing or your inner work. Zero. There may be nothing that you've done deliberately to address your internal situation. You may still be sick. You may have a healthy body and a sick mind, because you haven't addressed those internal things. And, a lot of times it's difficult for people, again, like I said, to maybe hear from someone like me. They want to segment it a bit. If I wanted some therapy, I would have gone to a therapist. I came to you for some spiritual stuff. If I want this, I would go over there. I would want that, I would go over there. I would go, and sometimes it's hard to imagine that all of these things are intertwined with one another, and you can't really abstract them from each other without possibly causing sickness. Some people think that, okay, hey, maybe I'm at a certain age now. I'm 50 or 60 pounds larger than I would like to be. I've lost a lot of muscle mass. I got a lot more fat on my body. And they may have an old picture of them when they were teenagers in their early 20s and say, man, if I could get that body back, everything would be perfect. If I could get that body back, I would have confidence with women, or I'd have confidence with men. I would look better in my clothes, so therefore I would have confidence in more confidence in my career. I could buy a smaller car, if I lost weight. I could buy the shoes I really like, because I wouldn't be so hard on my shoes. We just could go through the list, right? Something as simple as saying, man, if I could just lose this weight and get my body back together. And that has nothing to do with your internal growth. And it has very little to do with your peace. Sure, it will create transient moments of happiness, because happiness is transient. You can make yourself happy right now by drinking some gin, or eating some ice cream, or watching a comedy special, or whatever. We go through the list. Obviously, different things make different people happy. But when we talk about settling and rocking in your peace, swinging down into your peace, the bowels of your peace, it comes from internal healing. So, like I said, it's something that kind of came to the forefront of my thoughts a lot, really just talking about some of the topics that we've been playing with this strong, because I talk to so many people who, like I said, they want certain things. I want a family, I want a maid, I want this, I want that, man, I want to, land, I want a house, I want this, there's all these different things, man. And they don't necessarily talk about the healing. Most of the time, even from a spiritual perspective, they don't necessarily talk about what they want for their spirit. They'll spend a lot of time talking about what they want externally, but won't necessarily spend any time talking about anything else. Okay, like, yeah, I want to learn. I want to be more loving. I want to be more forgiving. I want to be more spiritually mature. Thank you for letting me know I'm chopping. I'm getting choppy, by the way. I just did something to fix it, so it should have cleared up. But I'll wait and see if you keep telling me it's choppy. Thank you, Justin. So yeah, man, that's an important piece of the whole game, of the whole puzzle. So, like I said, as we were talking about the subjects that we were talking about this strong, I'm looking at some of the comments, and then I guess I'm kind of just thinking, looking back, and thinking about how many people have come through our new and left because they didn't want to deal with their fundamental issues, their foundational flaws. And perhaps because sometimes, once you hear Baba, again, one of the reasons why a lot of times I don't introduce myself as Baba Lao. This is one of the reasons. There's several reasons I don't. But this is one of the reasons. Because like I said, people always talk, they start to act different. And once you say Baba, they assume that the only thing you know about is Ifa and chickens and, and old stories and songs and maybe some dances. They limit you, and you could say, yeah, I'm a Baba, but, I'm a clinical psychiatrist. They will ignore that. Oh, you're a Baba. So that's it. It doesn't go beyond that, man. So sometimes, like I said, purposely, I won't bring that up. So let's just talk. I'll just be the big brother or the smart OG or whatever. You know what I mean? But don't worry about the Baba thing. Because like I said, a lot of times they close themselves off to other things. Once you say Baba, it's like, okay, now, man, I'm not ready to hear things about my character from you. You may talk about Iwa this and Iwa that, but if you're not throwing an Opwele, or casting Iken on a mat, I really don't want to hear what you have to say. Sometimes we forget, especially as Black men, that our communities have been programmed from birth, to disrespect us. Even look at the way that we look how cold we are with each other sometimes, man. Like there's certain things that we let people do to us that we would never let each other, as Black men do to one another, man. A Black man could shoot another Black man in the head and then go home and eat a sandwich. There's a certain poison and toxic that raises up. You start to see, but you wouldn't be able to shoot a child in the head, go home and eat a sandwich. You wouldn't be able to shoot a Black woman in the head, go home and eat a sandwich. You wouldn't be able to shoot a white man in the head, go home and eat a sandwich, or a white woman in the head, go home and eat a sandwich. But between Black men, we can shoot each other in the head, go home and eat a sandwich. And everyone feels like that when it comes to the Black man. So that kind of tells you something. Part of the agenda in our society has been to disrespect Black men fundamentally, right? So, and I've spoken about that before, but again, I know that's because, again, that the programming is there. That's one of the ones that go in one ear and out the other. Just like when I really start talking about finances, most of it goes in one ear and out the other because you've been taught and trained not to monitor your economy, not to care anything about it. Don't have any conversations about it. You've been taught and trained that there's a mystique that surrounds investing in stocks and saving and earning and wealth building. So we'll listen to it and nod our heads if it's interesting, or if we have somebody as punchy, coming at us as Claude Anderson and talking real fast like he does. So he kind of, you have to listen. He gets your attention. But then after the lecture, we go back to doing what we've been doing. That's a part of the programming. You see? So it's the same piece, man. So sometimes I look at some of those fundamental programs, even within the teaching that we may offer, and I say, man, I'm looking at certain people with so much wasted potential, because they just refuse to address those foundational points, and they still feel like, well, no, if I can just get this, if I can just get my money right, everything will be cool. Or if I could just get my my family in order, everything will be cool. Everything will come together. And like I said, life doesn't work like that, man. It just doesn't work that way. If you even look at, thank you, Brother Anwar and Brother Tareem. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think Tareem, you might have been catching the old one, but I did my little trick just in case you were right. So hopefully I'm still clear. But You know, the thing about social media today, man, it really gives you a peek into the lives of people who you would call stars and celebrities and people of great notoriety, man. Now is really an opportunity to pay attention to what happens even when so many different things are achieved. Wealth, fame, financial stability, notoriety, success and achievement in your chosen field and in your endeavors. Are their lives perfect? No. Do they still go through calamities? Yes. You see, I've heard so many brothers, speak about, man, the reason our families are so messed up because our money's messed up. Once we get our money, then, our sisters will respect us again. What about all those celebrities who, who get divorces, who have millions and millions of dollars? T.I. Let's look at T.I. and Tiny. There's a lot of other examples, but I'm just saying. Scottie Pippen and his wife. So many different examples of people who have money. They got their money together. But maybe the internal healing wasn't done. Or maybe, and I'm not speaking against those brothers. I don't know them personally. But I'm just kind of giving you some examples, man. It's not the external things that will bring the internal healing. It's not, man. So you can listen to these segments. And like I said, usually when I'm speaking about certain things, I see the vibe of people, especially if I'm doing like a live workshop seminar, look in the eyes. And then if I start speaking about character development, everybody zones out. And sometimes I play around and do this, and I'll say, okay, now I'm going to give you a ritual for this. All the pencils come out. Everybody's murmuring, sis, can I borrow a pen? Oh, hold on. Would you mind if I wrote this down on my phone? Now you're engaged. I've done that before in workshops and be like, no, I'm not giving you no ritual. I just want to see what you're going to do. You see, that's a part of the fundamental programming. Because again, if you've been trained at an early age or programmed at an early age, don't listen to black men. Because like I said before, that's your way out of this mess, is your man. Every society knows that. That's your way out. So you have to be taught not to listen to him. You have to be taught to ignore him or to see him as a beast, as a violent, enraged, out of control beast. Because of the value and the worth that he represents. That's for all men. Black men, white men, Asian men, Arab men, for what they represent for their community. They're the way out. So you have to be able to dismantle that. And that's just one little thing I'm giving you. There's so much more. But sometimes these are some of the fundamental things that become our stumbling blocks. So when it comes time to, now you get into some information or some knowledge, and someone starts kicking these sciences to you, you're applying them, like I said, it's got to be in you, not on you. You're applying them like a coat of paint. Because you really don't want to scrape the old paint off. Because if I scrape this, so you might be putting paint over wallpaper. You really don't want to pull that wallpaper down. Because then once you pull the wallpaper down, because it's been there so long and the glue on it, it might take some chips of the walls off. And then you might say, man, this wallpaper's been on here for 40, 50 years. Who knows what kind of bacteria and dust and whatnot is underneath this. This is going to wreak havoc on my lungs. Why don't I just leave it and paint over it? So you don't make the fundamental internal changes that will bring the actual healing. You just do the external curing. Well, I'm going to achieve some success. I'm going to get a mate. And where the imbalance comes is sometimes we start to actually think that the achievement of certain things, and it's almost like at a childlike level, but the achievement of certain things is what actually brings the balancing in our life. Because like I said, I asked someone, hey, how you doing? How you been? Oh, man, things are pretty good, man. And they start telling me about all the things they got, all the new stuff they got, all of the external things. And, ultimately, like I said, that comes from the thought, like, it's a very fairy tale thought. Let's say, for instance, I'm lonely. Well, what's the cure for loneliness? Get some people around me. No, that's not the cure for loneliness. Or I'm a very angry person. Well, what's the cure for being an angry person? Be around happier people or just get people away from me. be able to live in solitude. That's my cure for angriness. So then we'll do rituals for solitude. I want to do a ritual where I can hit the number, or I can work a job from home because I don't want to go into the job anymore. I just want to be able to work from home and be alone and, not be bothered because I'm an angry person. I know I'm an angry person. Why don't you deal with the anger? Nope. Or again, I'm a lonely person. So boom, 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 boom. And what happens is, so let's say if you do the ritual, let's say if you get the job and now you're working from home, you don't have to be around people. So what do you now think? Well, that's a sign of my spiritual growth. Because see, look, I did the ritual and look what happened. Now I have the life that I wanted. Spiritual growth. Now, ultimately, your anger is a cyclone that extends outward. So even if you by yourself, it's still going to create calamities around you because it's not a natural positioning. Hurt is not a natural positioning. Hurt is a precursor of anger. That's not a natural positioning. Even if you were born hurt, your body's natural positioning and natural inclination is towards wellness. You see? So you have to tap back into that internal knowing that, no, my natural spot is wellness. It's not necessarily to be diseased with hurt or be diseased with anger or diseased with pain. So I don't resolve those things by changing my external circumstances or achieving something external to myself. I have to start with the internal first, and that's sometimes like when you start to deal with certain spiritual archetypes and certain spiritual energies, that's where you get that aggressive play where those particular energies remain very childlike in your mind. Well, why does Oshun, Ogun, and Shango remain in Yemoja and Ochosi and Oko and Obatala? Why do they remain childlike? Well, first of all, because in order for you to see them, you have to create a cartoon, right? If you want to see Shango right now, what do you have to do? You got to draw a picture of Shango. You want to see Oshun? Draw a picture of Oshun. Now, I know somebody's going to be slick and say, if I want to see Oshun, I go to the river. I know you're going to say that. That's the next level. But you still ain't seeing Oshun. Even if you see lightning and thunder, you're not seeing Shango and Oya. You see? So we're still looking for that external thing, right? So a lot of times in our growth and our path, in terms of how we're perceiving these particular energies, we perceive them as cartoons because we still have a childlike mind. And not childlike, well, let me say, we still have a childish mind. Let me fix that. Not childlike, childish. Still very immature. Still dealing with some of the same isms that we've been dealing with since we were 12, 11 years old. Just as shy, just as angry, just as jealous, just as insecure, just as greedy, just as self-absorbed, whatever the ism may be, just as disappointed in how we were born and how the divine shaped us. Why are my feet so big? Why are my ears so big? Why do I got this big wart in the middle of my nose? Why are my teeth so crooked? Why are my teeth so brown? Or why am I, my chin shaped like this? Whatever. Why can't I lose weight? Why can't I gain weight? Whatever it is. So we're still in that place where we haven't developed beyond that. So when we start tapping into those cosmic energies, even if they're angels, we got to look at cartoons. Draw me a picture of an angel. Draw me a picture of God. We stay stuck there in that space because of that lack of development and growth, you see. But the truth is, like I said, it's the internal, right? So when you begin to internally mature, because ultimately what we're looking for is growth, right? That's what we're talking about. We're talking about when we're truly and honestly growing versus when we're just painting ourselves up, as the caricatures of growth. That's the difference, But either way, there's either an integration of growth or there's an emulation of growth. The emulation, of course, would be the external representation, and the integration would be when it becomes internal healing and we really start to develop and we really start to move forward, right? So sometimes if no one speaks it out loud, it's hard to distinguish between the two of them. Now, I see it every single day. I talk to students, I watch students. I see little things you do, little things you say. And sometimes some of the situations you go through are a result of something I warned you about before, but you didn't want to hear me because, of course, never respect a black man. That's the worst thing you could do because you were trained not to. So you suffer as a result, right? And when you're dealing with someone who's in that space mentally or emotionally, all you can really do is watch. And ultimately, too, remember, I don't like being disrespected. So you're only going to get but so far like that anyway before you get cut off. So what happens, like I said, I see this every day. It's heart-wrenching sometimes, to see people just go through the pain, and you saying, look, man, we really need to have a talk about how you perceive the world, man, and how you see yourself, and how you're looking at nature, how you're looking at the cosmos and your character. They don't have those conversations. Or what they begin to do sometimes is they try to rear up on you, because if they can get you to accept the poor behavior, then they justify it. And I ain't having it. That's how we lose a lot of people in our new. I'll set you straight. You can leave. Get the F out of here. My respect is and my dignity is more important than your growth. So I always make that clear. Like, I'm not your father. So don't think I'm gonna take a bullet and sacrifice myself for you and sacrifice my own honor so you can get to step one. Nope. I'm not gonna lose 40 or 50 steps in my movement for one person. That's just bad math. Think about it, it's just bad mathematics. So then people, oh man, I can't get away. I can't bring my isms in this environment. I can't get away with what I've been getting away. You're noticing that I'm painting myself up with the fixtures and the caricature of growth, but there's no internal growth. And you're gonna tell me you're gonna bring it out. And if I act up in front of people, you're gonna say it in front of people. Oh man, I'm out of here. I always tell people, if you big and bad enough to disrespect me in public, be big and bad enough to get this ass whooping in public. Cause I will whisper to you. I don't, I'm not into embarrassing people. I'll pull you to the side and say, hold on, man, you got a little issue. You may want to tighten that up. But play games and, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, Chief. Well, let me rephrase it for you. So you didn't see what you thought you saw. All right. It comes out, man. It always comes out. Because one of the main things is this. 9 times out of 10, when it's a considerable amount of growth with a person, what they come in hankering for, they don't leave hankering for. And that's not because it's been fulfilled. Because most of the time, again, when it's that lack of growth and we're still operating internally as children, the desires and the things that we're doing rituals for and praying for are also childish. You see? So we're still, like, how many people have come up under Disney, the Disney royal paradigm, right? So let's take Sleeping Beauty. It's a common one that we find ourselves victims of. You got a lot of guys out here who think they should be white knights. They find a chick who's completely unproductive. Although in the original story of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, she helped around the house. Like she kept their house together and organized them and cleaned the house. When you read the original one, it wasn't. But in like the Disney version, she she's just dancing with the birds and the deer and the animals, and she bites an apple and goes to sleep. You know, but that's the one that most of us grew up under. Most of us didn't actually see the original. You know, so you got a lot of guys who white knight. They want to be that guy coming up on a white horse. It's, you know, Prince Charming and shining armor, and I'll save you. I'll kiss the princess, and you know, bring this old lazy bring this lazy woman back home, and da 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 da. You know, so many of us have grown up under those paradigms. You see, so now when we get into our deeper spirituality or different systems and things like that, well, that's what we do rituals for. That's what we visualize. So you got a lot of sisters who come in and say, man, if I could just find a husband, I'd be happy. What, you think you Snow White? You think somebody gonna come along and kiss you and you gonna be happy and put you on the back of his horse and you gonna go away to the crystal castle and live there happily ever after? Nah, man, you coming up underneath the Disney paradigm. That's not what we do. You see, we deal with internal growth. Prince Charming ain't gonna make you happy. And in fact, if you that miserable, you're going to make Prince Charming miserable. He's going to end up leaving you anyway. That's how that usually goes. You know, and then you'll be crying about that. And then that, it just regenerates over and over again. And the same thing with some of you fellas having that idea like, yeah, I got to find some woman I can save. So then you meet a woman who doesn't need saving. You don't know what to do with her. She just doesn't do it for you. So you start doing rituals, you know, for a project. I need a woman who's a project. Let me go to Oshun and ask for that. You're going to get what you ask for. But the problem is, again, because you haven't done the internal healing, you don't know what to ask for. Some of you have heard me say things like that to you before. You've gotten a little offended. I see the look in your eyes sometimes when you say that, yeah, I want this. And I say, no, you just starting out. You don't know what to ask for. Huh? You couldn't imagine that, right? Well, if you know so little about your soul, know so little about your spirit, because again, you most likely didn't grow up in a culture or in a system that taught you those things, then how would you know so much about what's needed for your life? If you have not been instructed on those things, then you would be like a child, like a baby, and like a baby or a child who doesn't know how to feed themselves. They'll eat bread and candy all day and Kool-Aid, drink Kool-Aid, eat bread and grapes. You know, that's all they want all day. Well, we come into the same situation a lot of times when we come into our spirituality and we haven't been raised up or matured through some real spiritual teaching. We start to pray for things that are very childish, and we're only looking to fulfill the childish hankerings that we have inside of us, without realizing that the things that we're praying for are the wrong things. Like, you know, if you look at Solomon, for instance, you look in biblical law, you know, all he wanted was wisdom. You say, nah, man, give me the internal thing. The other stuff will come along with it. There's something to understand about that. You know, we do a lot of work for character. Iwa Rere. You know, I know people say Iwa Puele all the time, but I broke that down in my book. What the difference is. It's Iwa Rere, good character, because good character is all that is requisite. Once I get that, man, everything else comes along with that. But that's the main thing that we skip around. We tap dance around that so much. All right, I'll get the good character, but first let me get my money. First let me get this new job. First let me get a shinier car. My car's whack. First let me get a powerful, strong man. First let me get a good submissive wife. You asking for all the wrong things. See, when there's true growth, what you begin to ask for changes immensely, because what happens is you stop asking. You have your standard things that you say. Like, I ask for things every day, but honestly, you know why I ask? Out of habit. You know, because there's certain prayers that I say in Zulu and Yoruba, and it's just a part of the actual adoras. Those certain things you may say, you know, you may ask for. Fun mini this, Fumini, wo ni me, Fumini, give me this, give me that. But nah, after a while, you don't ask. See, that's where the growth comes in, because you actually begin to grow in those places where you felt the deficit was previously. You see? So you may say, oh man, I really want a mate. And if I could just get a mate, or I just really want to lose weight. If I could just lose weight. I've seen people, man, come to me, ask for elbows to lose weight. I've been trying everything. I just can't seem to lose weight. And then I'll say, well, hey, well, let's sit down. Let's talk about that first. And I see them getting fidgety. Who do you think I'm some type of carnival machine? You guess your weight or something? That's not the way to do it. Come there and say you want an elbow to lose weight. See, that's a childish statement, childish question. And I don't do childish readings. So I'll say like, well, hey, what are you eating? How are you working out? And I had a conversation like that recently with a client, man. She got all like fidgety. She went, yeah, I had that. I said, wait a minute. I said, well, like losing weight, 80% of it is diet. She's like, I've been working out so hard. I've been doing cardio. I said, yeah, but how you eat? How do you eat? She didn't want to answer the question. She kept tap dancing. Then it finally came out that she has a horrible diet. I said, well, 80% of losing weight is diet. That's why you notice if you're sick or something and you don't eat, you'll lose a lot of weight, but you're not exercising. So there's your proof right there. The majority of it is what you're eating. It's your diet. But you want an abo, which is not going to work. But either way, I wouldn't give you that anyway. Why would I disrespect my E5 like that? You see, it's a childish wish based on a childish thought. If I lose weight, then this will happen for me. This great thing will occur for me. All of these beautiful things will now come alive in my life because I've created this amazing external change in my life. You see, and nothing works that way. It's very, very, very difficult to accept in that sense. Very, very difficult to understand. All right. I'm going to take a quick break again. All right. I'll be right back with more of this.
Severed from the traditions of our legacy, we now embrace alien philosophies, looking at our rituals with suspicion, disconnected from our divine foundation. We hope instead of know, wish as opposed to acknowledge, anticipate as opposed to create, worship instead of invoke, choking on the phlegm of oppression, suffocating from the ignorance of indigenous wisdom. Forgot our chants, rituals, and rhythms. Forgot our initiation systems. Forgot about the patriarchal order. Forgot the sacred role of water. Connected to being nigga, what happened to our warriors? What happened to the healer, magicians, and drummers? What happened to our shaman, jollies, and dancers? Do we prefer to be ass shakers and gangsters? Giving props to Socratic methods while blatantly ignoring Imhotep. From step pyramid to urine stench projects, history ignored as identity neglect. Can't have self-respect without a healthy self-concept. Deep beyond the calcified, corroded psyche exists a true you, sitting in the lotus position, meditating on liberation, raising your spirit vibration while disintegrating images of self-destruction. First eye to soul, revealing your purpose through visualization.
All right, and we're back. All right, I just needed a little break there. I had some noise going on in the background there for me, and it was a little distracting. So, yeah. Anyway, so we're back on it. Like I said, we've been talking about growth and things like that. I see the chat room has been real popping and real punchy and jumpy. I don't even think I'm gonna get into all this. I don't know where y'all started. It seems like there's been a good. I don't know. I guess it's a good conversation. No, we ain't arguing, but it seems like there's a lot of back and forth there. I saw one thing though that popped up in the corner of my eye. I think Brother Marvin the Magi said it. I think. See if I could find it. He said, "Who are we when no one is looking?" I don't know if that was an answer to what y'all were talking about or something like that, or if you just threw that in there. I haven't been. Normally, when I'm doing this, I got one eye on the chat, but sometimes I lose sight of the chat. So I, I kind of fell off a little bit on the chat. So I don't know totally what which y'all are on. Somebody's always looking. Yeah. If no one was looking, then you wouldn't be anybody. You're a product of your own perception. So someone is always looking. You're always looking. So yeah, like they say, God is always watching. Be careful because God is watching. There you go. So who are you when no one is looking? You're the perception of what is watching, which is you. And then once you distinguish between, the you who is living something out or thinking something out, and the fact there's a separation between that which is observing what is living or that which is thinking, and you say, okay, well, I'm that thing, then you'll come to this understanding. But then something also had to observe that something, observing that other something thinking. See, people who deal with consciousness or the unified field, the subconscious mind, they don't really talk about that much. But you know what? I'm gonna tell you something, man. When we say like little cute things like we are the infinite, it really is true. Who we are when no one is looking is we don't exist when no one is looking. Because we are products of perception, products of observation. So yeah, I'm scanning through the chat as I'm talking. But yeah, I don't know. I don't want to just jump in because it seems like y'all were going. You had something really going back and forth here, so I'm just gonna go on what I am. I mean, what I was talking about. I think Brother Charles dropped some science in here, which was nice because we don't always get Brother Charles in the room. So let me see if I can scan up and see what he said. If I could find him, I know he's got an Adinkra symbol. I think for his avatar. There we go. Yeah, he has a Nyami. Brother Charles said, Vivid Eye, I guess talking to Vivid Eye, consider what your strengths are and look at them. Well, what did Vivid Eye say? Let me go to the first one. Okay, Vivid Eye said, I moved very quickly at one point, messed me up for a minute, but it was a good experience, taught me patience and respect. Okay, not sure what that was. And then Brother Charles said, Vivid Eye, consider what your strengths are and look at them when they are out of balance, and also consider what those closest to you have said. Think in terms of Ire and EB. All right, so I'm lost on that one. All right. I don't know what they were talking about. I'm trying to jump. Sometimes I like to grab little comments here and there out of the room, even though I may take them out of context. Sometimes it's kind of interesting. Just because it's just interesting sometimes just to see. It's almost like divination to see where things fit in based on what we're speaking about, But anyway. So yeah, like I was saying, at least the one thing I think I did catch was Brother Marvin's piece, where just who are we when no one's looking, man? Someone's always looking, and ultimately someone's always looking at that thing looking. And then once you come to understand that, then you say, well, then there's something processing that. Well, then what's processing that? What's processing that? It just keeps going on and going on. It's very similar to back in '65. You see this in that movie. Is one of the not Planet of the Apes, but is it? It was the last. No, I'm sorry, the second to the last the old Planet of the Apes, not the new one with Marky Mark. What's the guy? Was that Mark Wahlberg? Yeah, Mark Wahlberg. I think Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. But not the ones with him, the new ones, but the older ones. It wasn't Escape the Planet of the Apes. It was Planet of the Apes. It was the one when they came to Earth, the mother and father, and they had the baby, But they had the whole. They were drawing a picture about infinite dimensions, and I think it was in like 65, 66. There was a Japanese artist who had created Yao Kusama, who had created the idea of the I think it was called the infinite mirror room. And basically it's like, you shine one mirror into another mirror, or even in a painting it was depicted as a mirror projecting, mirrors projecting an external universe into each other because they kind of bounce off of each other. Well, it's the same thing, in terms of it's the same thing in terms of our perception of ourselves. It's infinite because we're reflecting. It's I perceive the creator perceives me. Then I perceive the creator perceives me. I perceive the creator. And meanwhile, I'm growing, and because I'm growing, the creator is changing. So that which is perceiving and that which is observing and being perceived is constantly changing. So it creates an infinite field, or like they call it the phallus field, but or a phallized field, but it creates that infinite mirroring going out into the infinite illusion of space. And I say illusion on purpose. So yeah, man. Okay, so Brother Charles gave some cry. He was saying that he was having a hard time determining what his character challenges were. Ask your mother. She'll tell you. Ask your moms and your pops. Real simple, man. Keep it simple sometimes. You guys get too complicated. Ask your moms. Your moms know what's effed up about you. There may be some of the things that are messed up about her, and as she was hoping you weren't going to inherit, but you did. That's the other thing too, man, with empire building. I was thinking about that. I didn't bring it up, but a lot of times I speak to brothers say, man, I'm looking for good women or a good woman or so forth and so on. And, where do I look? And understand something, especially when we're speaking about from an ancient perspective, and especially for some of you brothers who are very interested in the idea of polygyny or, building empires based off of plurality. I need some sea moss. I'm not talking right. Hold on, I gotta drink some sea moss. There we go. All right, I'm smart again. That's my secret. Without the sea moss, oh boy, I start sounding like a bumbling gorilla. But so yeah, man, when you start looking at the empire building in that sense like that, man, and you start talking about concubinage and harems and those kind of questions that a lot of guys were asking and stuff. I'm gonna give you a little gem, man. Most of the time, in many instances, it was the mother of the man who managed, or not managed, but was like the CEO of his actual harem, or as we say in Yoruba, the Orun, which is heaven, which is where his wife and children were. You didn't have to have more than one wife to have. It could be one wife, but where your wife or wives and children were, it was your mother. Because it's like I tell you often that a lot of times we let young girls make decisions about their sex and their entire life before they're really able and equipped to make those decisions. The same is true for young men. So what we did in many indigenous culture, it was your mother who helped you to manage that. You say, Mom, man, sometimes we do it now in like a real, a regular secular sense. We got a young lady we like. What do? I'm gonna bring her home to come meet my mother. The only difference now in today's society, if your mother doesn't like you, you're still gonna date her anyway. That's the problem. But most, if your mother is balanced and aligned, man, she knows what's right. She knows what's right. I tell you something my mother told me when I was 7. So just to give you an example of what I'm talking about, right? 7. What do you know about your young son's sexuality at 7? Well, mama knows something. My mother told me at 7 that when I got older, and she sat me down like this was an important talk. She saw something and was like, uh-oh, let me tell him now. She said, son, when you get older and you decide to have a wife, she said, make sure she's a couple of years older than you and she's really responsible. And I said, why? And she said, because you forget a lot of some of the very basic things that you need for yourself. And you're going to need a woman who's going to be able to help you with that. And of course, I'm like, what you talking about? She said, well, a lot of times, son, you wear mismatched socks. I still wear mismatched socks. That's my style. That's my swag. And she said, you know how you always missing your belt loop? Which I still do. I was like, yeah. She's like, see, a lot of times you miss little things. And you're going to need a woman who who you can still respect. She might be a little bit older than you, but who can pick up on things like that. Now I'm 7 years old hearing this, right? Now, of course, I'm saying in my mind, I ain't trying to mess with no old broad, but I didn't say that out of respect. But, I got the message, so that's what I'm telling you, brothers, man. Keep it simple. Just like I tell you, a young girl is under her father's covering. She's not qualified to make certain decisions, man. Nah, man. I wish one of my youth would come to me talking about, oh, Baba, I'm in love. And what? Let me get that. Bring that sucker over here. How the hell you gonna fall in love with my daughter? I ain't met you. You immediately disqualified. Immediately. You know that. There ain't gonna be no love talk till I meet this joker. So it's the same thing with a mother. Parents have a responsibility in that sense a lot of times that we don't realize, man, we miss out on. And I'm not saying that every mother is qualified to do that, because yeah, I have seen some times where mothers have given some poor advice. Actually I saw that just last night, actually, a little situation, and a mother was advising her son towards basically a harlot. And I knew the girl was a harlot. And I'm like, you sure? She was like, yeah, I really like her. She's well-mannered. I'm like, have you really got to know the... I didn't want to blow the young lady's situation up. But I'm like, this little girl is sucking ding-dongs all over town, man. And you don't even know about it. Just because she's nice to you, she's playing you. Because she knows you're simple-minded. But, so I'm not saying that every mother's qualified, but when you start looking at empire building and things like that, man, bring those elders into the mix, man. They're going to spot things that you may not necessarily spot. You see, and your mother, man, like I said, in traditional times, even in Yoruba culture, West African culture, it was the mother who managed that part of the household. In turn, the hierarchy of your family is critical, man. And even personally, that took me a minute to get, because I was always on this egalitarian thing, and it was the wrong way for me to be thinking. I had to learn the hard way, but there has to be a hierarchy. You have to, like, especially again, that you brothers who are very interested in plurality, who have reached out, as much as it may pain you and as much trouble as you think it may bring, you're going to have to, if you're going to have plurality, you got to have a bottom woman. You got to have a woman who kind of runs things, and then you set up a hierarchy starting from her on down. And it may be your first wife, or it may not be your first wife, depending on how you have things set up, man. But and usually all of those women, now you may not be able to have that, but usually all of those women are subject to your mother. So imagine that for a second. Like I said, a lot of times we want to practice certain things, which is cool, and we want to do it in an abstraction without really, you say, well, back in Africa we did this. There is no such thing as back in Africa. What country? What time period? So that people just throw that around to try to get off what they want to get. Back in Africa we had multiple wives. Who had multiple wives? When did they have multiple wives? Did they call them wives? What country? And was this a forever thing, or was it seasonal that you may bring another woman into your fold? So it's no such thing as, well, back in Africa. So like I said, man, but in many places that I have studied and even visited, your mother has, like, she's the supreme. She's what we call the Ialocha or the Ialosha in our Yoruba culture, and the Ialosha or the Iyale is the woman of the house. Iyale is again a cognate of Iya and Ile. Iya, mother, Ile, home. So the Iyale is the mother of the home, right? So even though you're the husband, I mean, it's not incestuous. You're not sexing your mother, but your mother may be the supreme voice and rule over your wife / wives and your children. But here, peep this. In those societies, you have more authority. You have authority over your mother when you get to a certain age. It's kind of deep, isn't it? Right? That's the part we don't, that's the part you may have trouble with nowadays, But, if you have a chief and a certain, it would just take a chief, right? But it doesn't have to be a royal thing. But if you have a chief and you have his mother, she's a subject of her son. But his wife/wives or concubine, depending on, again, how his situation is set up, or his consorts, his we call them over back home house girls, but in some culture they call them maid servants. The women who help to maintain the home, wash clothes, watch the babies, maybe cook meals, whatever like that. They're all subject to your mother, and it may be 15 women in your household. And when I say women, I don't mean like you may have 15 wives, but you may have 2 wives or 1 wife, but you may have a staff, quote unquote, of 14 other women subject to your mother. She's the one who handpicked them. So a lot of times when you hear them stories like, well, back when we did it back in Africa, the women choose the other wife. That's fairy tale, man. People be making up. Because all you do is ask them, where'd you see that? Where? There's people who never even been on the continent. They never even stepped on the soil. They be making up stuff for their own purposes. But you did have a lot of situations where mothers chose. Because why? Mothers, remember, the women hold the lineage. Mothers had a vested interest in what you brought back through that lineage. You see? Like, I knew as a young man, certain sisters don't even bring around my mother. I knew that. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't mean like I'm sneaking around, but, this might just be something I'm having bangathons with. This ain't really nothing serious. But she had a thing about health, and she would do health diagnosis on, my mother was nice with the Ayurvedic, even, I don't think she ever even, maybe she did, I don't think she ever studied it, but she could look in your eyes and tell all kind of things about your organs. Then I'd bring sisters by, she'd be like, all right, stick your tongue out, let me see. Look at her tongue, smell her breath. Then she'd be asking her, what's your stool like? Is your stool hard or is it soft? I'm like, yo, ma, come on, man. like we just getting ready to leave. I just stopped by here to change my sneakers. Like, don't do this. Not now. Don't do this now. And then she pulled me to the side. She's sick. She's sick. I don't like her. She's sick. You see, but that's traditional. You understand what I'm saying? That's traditional. That's how we did it back in the days. Now, of course, in a different kind of paradigm, that's just my mother being a roots woman. But in a different kind of paradigm, I'm looking at it like, oh, is she coming with this crap again? Then my pops would come with the, how she look? How she look? She ugly? She pretty? Girl, be in the next room. She hears you. I don't want no ugly grandkids. How she look? So in that sense, and I know it sounds very crude. I got crude parents, but it's that same royal idea of they're protecting the line in a certain way. They don't want any duds, and I'm the same exact way now. I find myself being, man, bring her around here so I can see her. She too short. Her face shape funny. She look like she ain't done. She ain't fully developed. I'm good. Don't bring her around here no more. So I'm just giving you, a lot of you brothers, that little tidbit, man, that little tip for those of you trying to build, man. Tap back into that wisdom of your grandma and your mothers and your aunties. They used to hit me with a lot of wisdom, and some of I ignored as a youth and paid for it later. But traditionally, right by his side was, the ruler, the chief, the emperor, or even the king. Right there by his side was his mother. She was the queen. Now, I know that may be hard for a lot of you to imagine, and again, let me reiterate, this is not some Oedipus stuff. So we're not talking about Oedipus complex where you're trying to, bang out your mother or anything like that. But it's just a recognition that, again, as the mother and as the queen, she embodied it was a deityhood. She embodied the fullness of what that place represented. And all of the wives aspired to be that and to have the honor that she had. You see, so they all bowed at her feet, man. If she would come to Iolosha, and even again in our traditional setting, if you go to Nigeria, the Iolosha is the mother, she wakes up first. Because a lot of times, you may still live in a compound with your family. You know what I mean? Like, even as a young man, you may, or your compound may be very close to your families, but the Iolosha or the Iyale or the woman of the house, even if it's not your mother, this is the woman who gets the day started, basically. She's like the bird. She's like the chirping bird in the dawning. So she's usually up first. She might be up at 3 a.m., one of them type of, sleepers. In bed by 7, up by 3, And she's the one who comes out first, and she might be sweeping, or she might cook first, or, she gets things started. And usually she's the one who wakes everyone up. You see, so there is a hierarchy in place there, man. So you're gonna need that order in terms of your building, man. And if you see, when I'm talking to you about the roles that a mother would play or your father would play and stuff like that, that ain't got nothing to do with multiple wives. All right, like I said to you the other day, polygyny. Don't get it twisted, man. You got to get a polygynous mind first. That has nothing to do with, I got this queen over here, I got that queen. You just having access to a bunch of sex. You can do that now. It's easier to do that without polygyny, to be honest with you. It's harder. You got to justify things. If you just want to be king dingaling and swing your dingaling all around town, then it's better. You're better off just not getting married. You'll get more sex that way. You'll have access to more sex that way. But if you want to do this thing right, you have to take on that mindset first. And that, a lot of times, part of your foundation is not just establishing an economic base or a structural home base or cars and things like that. It's also reconciling issues with your parents. Getting things tight with your mother, because, in many senses, man, even if you look at it in Europe, it was the mother and the sons ruling kingdoms. They were the ones handling things. And just look through time. You see what I'm talking about. It was the mother and the son, because once or look at the Osirian tale. Who was rocking? Heru and Osset. You see, there's something to that you'd want to pay attention to when you're trying to build an empire. You're trying to build a kingdom. And again, I'm not saying, don't be a mama's boy, man. Ain't nothing worse than a freaking mama's boy. Don't be up underneath your mother's skirt. But there's a role for her. Just because you leave your parents' house, like I said, don't look at it always like you're disconnecting and splitting from your family base, but you're adding on to your family. If your daughter goes out and marries, or your son goes out and marries, the family's now bigger. And that honor should always be present. I know a lot of times in our society now, you may get married and your husband doesn't get along with your family, or your wife doesn't get along, which that just doesn't work. That just does not work. You can't do that. It doesn't work. You can't build an empire like that, because you got to pay attention to the lines. The lines are very important, and the hierarchy and the structure is very important. Yeah, so, just as a side note, and that's all to that question, how do I find out about my character or parts of messed up? Man, ask your parents. Like I told you, a lot of times, man, things that some of you, and I'm not saying you were asking for a ritual, brother, but a lot of the times the things that we may look for rituals to do, you don't need a ritual if you practice the customs. See, that's what we was talking about yesterday, the supremacy of customs, cultures, and practices. If you're living the culture and you're practicing the customs, then there's so many things that's going to come along with that, man, that you won't be sitting here doing all these rituals, trying to do character readings, or trying to do readings on your mate. I found a mate and I'm going to go to Ifa and see if it's okay. See, that's a common reading we get, right? Come on now, don't be shy about it. You know what I'm talking about. Because I get those calls all the time. Oh, Baba, I met someone, Can you? And it's usually well, no, the brothers too ask, but a lot of times the sisters. But can you do a reading on them? And then I'll ask, well, have you introduced them to your family? No, not yet. First, I want to see what Ifa said. Oh, come on, man, get out of here. You're wasting my time. Because you're going to see what Ifa says, and that's going to supersede whatever your family says anyway. Or you probably weren't even thinking about bringing this person to your family. You ain't even thinking like that. See, the customs and practices, again, a lot of times we ignore things like that, but I'll give you a small example of that, right? A small example of the value of customs and practices over the spiritual mysticism, right? A lot of times here in the States, when we speak about Orisha sciences or Ifa, right? If someone says, okay, this person's a Baba, or this person's an Awo, or we'll just say, oh man, the person's a child of this Orisha, that Orisha, right? You notice how we make such a sharp distinction between people who practice Santeria, people who practice Lukumi, Brujas, spiritualists, people who practice Shango, and people who we say, this is the term we use, they practice Yoruba. You notice this is a sharp distinction? You might look at somebody who practices Santeria, who goes back and forth between here and Cuba, and someone who practices Orisha and Ifa sciences as Nigerian dictate and goes back and forth to Nigeria. You notice this is a big difference between those two people? But they're apparently practicing the same spiritual system. But why are they so stark different? Even in terms of the people. And then you find that the practices become different even in the religions, because the cultures are completely different. You have one that is very locked in and tied into Catholic and even sometimes Protestant values. And then you may have another one that's very locked into the ideas of cultural and ethnic reclamation. They may be nationalist. So they're dealing with two totally different cultures, although they are part of the same religion. I've seen this before. I've seen people come and ask me to do readings because I've had women who they're dealing with Santeria, but their boyfriend is dealing with Lukumi, and they want to know if it'll work out. Well, shouldn't it technically work out? Technically, these are both offshoots of Orisha and Ifa sciences as given to you by the Yoruba people. And of course, their cousins in Benin. But because of the customs and the practices and the distinctive cultures of Santeria and the distinctive cultures of Lukumi and the distinctive cultures of Nigeria, that you're dealing with three totally different people, totally different ways of doing things. You see, so those customs and practices become key. And once you have those in place and you've solidified those to some degree, you'll find again that you don't need to get so much spiritual work done. You don't need to get so many readings. You don't always have to be asking, well, what does Ifa say about this? What does Ifa say about that? See, people are looking for those mystical ideas because they don't want to submit themselves to the culture. Yeah, I know people don't like the word submit or submission, but learn to like it. Some of the things that you don't like are just because of your sickness. They're not because you got a valid point. Even though you may feel like you got a valid point, you don't. So like I'm saying, yeah, man, soaking up that culture. Like what I'm sharing to you right now is not a Nigerian thing per se. Yeah, man. I mean, you find that idea of, again, mothers helping to manage, because see, let me tell you something, man. I had to tell a brother this yesterday. We were talking and he had shared with me, he's currently in the process of building his family, so he was sharing with me, like, some of the travels he had done. He had met with some of the sisters' families and family uncles and Yeah, I think uncles and cousins and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, that's good, man. I'm glad you were able to do that, man. That's really beautiful. But one of the things I had shared with him, I said, even outside of you doing all of those things, in terms of meeting everyone and everything, that's beautiful. But what I did tell her, I said, that's not really what you're supposed to be doing. I said, right now, you basically globe hopping to secure women into your family. And that's not really what you're supposed to be doing. I said, you're really supposed to be focused on building up your empire. And your mother is supposed to be recommending, or, it's like, grandma goes to church and says, how about so and so? He's a nice young man. He just came back home from school and he just moved back in town, while you busy handling your business. I said, that's really how it's supposed to be, because some of the conversations that you're having require proxy. Just like even back home, like, we have what's called the knocking, like in certain areas, right? The knocking is when you go. Some of you who may have family from the continent, you know what I'm talking about. When you got to go pay your knocking fee and everything. But it's a whole. I would say a big whole. It's not a big whole ceremony, because it's just a part of it. This is like the entrance to some of the other things you got to do. But the knocking and paying a knocking fee is when you go and you knock on the door of the woman that you are interested in, or you may have been dating, and the family may even know you've been dating, but it's not really official that this person is, as you would say, engaged to you or going to be your wife until you do the knocking. And then, just started breaking up. That's weird, because I just did some stuff to hook it up. All right, almost like I'm coming. Thank you for letting me know. It should clear up. All right, should be clear now. But so you have to do the knocking, right? Well, I'll wait till y'all tell me it's clear, because I don't want to go through this whole thing and then y'all come back on some, you still fuzzy, Chief. So let me know. I know there's a delay. I can tell there's a delay. But let me know when it clears up. All right. Good. Thank you, Brother Antonio. Thank you, Anwar. Thank you, Brother Marvin. Yeah, man. So some of you may be familiar with the knocking, right? So you got to knock on the door, and usually you go with your uncles, right? You go with your uncles. Thank you, Brother Shaga. And I have helped a young man do the knocking before, when his uncle, well, he wasn't that far away, but he was like maybe about 4 hours away, and I spoke to his elder uncle, and he said, yeah, Baba, can you stand in? I was like, yeah. And, they know I am, like, I'm like, listen, man, we're going to negotiate a right price, man. Good bride price. So I said, listen, I understand, and I warned his uncle. I was like, listen, man, I understand, you don't want to mess up your standing and everything. But I said, if you send me to do the knocking, I'm going to make sure that your nephew doesn't get raked over the coals on his bride price. So we did the knocking, right? And this particular sister at the time, she actually had a child, which is very, very rare, that, like the unwed mother type of thing back home. But so the family, so we were talking, he did the knocking, and basically, you state your intention. Like, I would like to marry such and such, and da 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 da. And you usually don't get an answer right there. The family will give you an answer maybe a day or two later, even though they already know the answer. And they'll, like, you present yourself, and then the uncles will say, okay, but even when you come and do the knocking, you still got to bring some liquor. If you don't bring liquor, it's not official knocking. So you got to bring, usually schnapps is what we bring, but you got to bring some liquor. So you bring the liquor, usually 2 bottles for a knocking, right? You present the liquor, you say, and it would be me talking or another uncle. Yeah, so-and-so, they have been together. They have an intention. He wants to marry her. This, that, third. They may ask a few questions, but then, this is a formality, because what this is, it's not, they pretty much know what they want to do already, but it gives the family an opportunity to meet. So me as an uncle, I may not have never really sat and built with them. So this is how you create the interwebbing of a family tree. So as you're talking, they may say, "Oh, well, Baba, what do you do?" "Oh, okay, well, back in America, I do this and da 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 da, and I also have the orphanage over here and the land over here." Da, da, da. "Oh, okay, Baba, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, what do you do?" "Oh, I have a pineapple farm. I do pineapple and I do moringa and maybe, I have frankincense trees." "Oh, okay, 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 okay." And then we may start, the brother's bill, basically, right? And the young man is there. He's quiet. He sits and he waits, right? So then you say, "Okay, this is the intention." So then after that, they come back with, it might be like a day or two later, they'll give you their answer. And most time the answers, or you wouldn't have came and knocked and spent your money on them snaps. But they'll come, but they'll give you the list of what is required to have the woman. So there's fees in there, blankets you gotta buy different cloths and fabrics for the women of the family, so there's a whole list you gotta fulfill, and it could be expensive. And I remember, like, for instance, this one young man, when his uncle called me, he was like, "Hey, Baba, can you stand in for me?" I said, "Yeah, it's so cool." Went through, and when we got the list back, I was like, "Yo, we gotta go back." And he was like, "No, no, Baba, you can't." I was like, "Yes, you can do that. Everything's negotiable." I said, "Yo, she got a kid already, man." He was like, "Yeah, but it's like the child is like my child because I've helped her raise a child. We're all friends." I was like, "No, no, 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 no. When a woman has a child, this is the tradition back home. The bride price is cheaper. In fact, in some areas, there is no bride price, and you're not required to take care of her if she already has a child." Now I know that. And I went back and I was like, "Yo, what are you trying to do, man? You trying to flim flam? You think I'm come from America, man? I got money like Obama?" You got to crack jokes like that. You keep everything light. You're not going back riffing anything like that. You may riff back home, but when you go back to the house and you have the meeting and you sit down and you're drinking water, you're keeping it light and fun. And because, see, every time you get to go back and negotiate and say, "No, no, no, no," they get to see how intelligent you are. See, which gives them more security and assurance for what they're giving because they're giving their daughter what they're giving their daughter into. You see, so I remember when I came back, I was like, "No, listen. She already has a child." So I said, we actually don't have to give any price. And then, it was the elder uncle. He was real short. He stood up out of his chair and didn't come up any taller. But he was like, "No." He was sweating all over the place. He was like, "That is not right." I'm like, "Listen, man, just relax with all that, man. Just relax, Baba. You know what you're trying to do. Don't think and I told him, I said, "Yo, don't think because I'm coming from America, I don't know." And the uncle, he was like, "Yeah, Baba, you know our traditions very well, huh?" I was like, "Yeah, I think I might know them better than you." And we're laughing and joking about that. But you see, there's a whole little process, but it's all beautiful, right? Now, these men that I'm talking about, these are my homeboys. These are my brothers. You see, these are my brothers. Matter of fact, one of the last times I was there, one of them helped me. He actually repaired it before I even got there. He started the repairs. I had a bamboo fence around one of my properties that got messed up. When the rainy season came, and he called me, let me know. He's like, "Yeah, Baba, your fence is messed up, and now the goats are going all through there." And I said, "Oh, that's cool." He said, "Yeah, but Baba, you want to have that fenced, man?" He said, "I'll fix it for you." He said, just when you come, just give me the money for the bamboo." I said, "Oh man, here comes a flim flam." But sure enough, it was the right price for the bamboo, because this is like my brother now. So it's like, my property is hit because I had some food on my property, and the children, like, during their school break, they like to go and take some of the fruit out of my trees and stuff. When I'm there, I'm like, "Come on, man, come and ask me first. Don't just come on the property, start throwing rocks in the air, knocking the fruit down. But that's also my way of the children. They laugh when I do that. They know I'm not, like, I pretend like I'm gonna beat you. They know I'm not gonna beat them though. Actually, although I have beat quite a few children in that particular village, so they do know I will beat them. But they know my energy. They know when I'm serious. When Baba's about to, as we say, cane you. That's the terminology. You about to get caned, because in school you get caned. Caned is sticks. You get hit with sticks in school. Corporal punishment is on and popping. They're trying to change that now. In a lot of different places, but they still utilize corporal punishment, and we're so crazy about it, which I think is so cold blooded. For most of the schools, when you go into, the children are required to buy their own cane as a part of their school supplies. That's crazy to me. Some schools, they require you to buy like 3 canes. So like they prepare like, yo, we're going to run through these canes on you. But you get caned for a lot of, like, if you show up late, you come to school late, you get caned. Maybe if you don't do your work, you'll get caned. And again, caned is getting hit. They call it a cane, but it's getting hit with a stick. So I don't use a stick. I use my hands. I'm old school. So they know them children. You act up, Baba will grab you by one arm. You can run faster, but I will come to your house. Or fie. If you're in Ghana, Fanti, give you a word so you know. You already know Yoruba ile. In Fantiland, or it's fie and tree, fie. So if you say kofie, like going to your house, or miracle fie, I'm going to my house. Yeah, man. So, but the thing is, because of those processes, the customs and the practices, and again, in these places, they know Baba, me, he's the juju man. That's what they always call me. He's a juju man. He's a juju man. So none of these people are practicing Ifa. Even in a lot of the regions that I settle in Nigeria, most of the people in the where I'm at they're not practitioners. You see? But those customs and practices still hold. Nonetheless. You understand what I'm saying? So that's what I'm telling you guys, man. You want to learn these customs and practices, man. It's really important, because that's how you build. So just something as simple as that, right? Because I stood in for the knocking, went back and negotiated. It was like, yo, we ain't paying all that money for it. All right, you bugging. At the time, his child, well, I'm saying his child now, but at the child, the baby was maybe time, because he was walking. He was kind of walking, maybe 2-3 years old, something like that. Little bow-legged baby. He's cute little baby, real bow-legged, And I said, no, man, that's not his baby, man. I said, so he doesn't have to take care of her. You know the rules. Usually in a situation like that, you got a baby already, man. A woman will marry somebody who's very old, or maybe who's lame. That's the truth of it. Now, don't worry. This isn't America, y'all get away with a lot of that stuff. But back home, you have a child out of wedlock, your mating choices change drastically. Okay, so if you do get a brother who's like, yeah, I'm gonna take you on, and a lot of times it may not be the best quality brother because of that, But if that does happen, the whole process changes. So they thought, oh, okay, Baba's from America, he doesn't know. We're gonna get over on them. No. I know this better than you know it, man. So we negotiated that fee way down, way down. But we still made sure she got her essentials. Like, we made sure the house was set up right. Actually, I gave him the money to run electricity up to the house. We tapped into somebody's line. We give him a little bit of money every month. We ran power up to the house. We didn't have running water, but that wasn't really a big deal, not having the water, because you just carry water. But, we made sure the house and everything was set up fine for her and the baby. And that's part of his responsibility. And those things are checked on. And usually what happens is the women from the family, they come up to whatever house you say you're going to put that woman in, and they come check. They look around. Oh, do you have a kitchen? You got to have a kitchen. Okay, they see if you have your pots and pans. And then as a part of your fee, you also have to buy her underwear. You got to buy bras. It's a lot of different things, in those lists. But the thing is, again, the science. Now, can she buy her own bras? Yeah, sure. But, the science here is we want to make sure that when we give her to you, that you have established a space for her. You see? And sometimes it may take like a brother 6, 7 months, 8 months, sometimes a year to get his list taken care of all the things that he has to buy. The extra liquor is going to be more snaps. It's going to be more fabric, different kinds of blankets. You got to handle all of that stuff. Maybe he doesn't even have a place. He might have to go build a place, and then, set up the kitchen, run the water, it's a whole big thing. So the family is letting you know, it's like a rite of passage almost, when you're qualified to be a husband to my girl, or to this girl here. So you know what you have to work up to. But meanwhile, the uncles are cool. They're getting to know each other, and they're talking, and they become like brothers. You see, and then might go into different business things. Like I got one of them now. We're supposed to be working on something together. We'll see how it goes. But or even like when my fence, got messed up. I'm back here. I'm back in the States. I'm like, oh man, okay. I'll take care of it when I get there. He's like, no, don't worry, Baba. I'll take care of it for you. Went out there and split the bamboo for me, and hooked the fence back up. We good to go, because that's my brother now. You see, so I'm telling you, man, don't second guess the power and the value of customs and practices, man. That's the stuff that we utilize to build. And like I was saying earlier, when you're looking for that change, a lot of times, and we're focused on the external, it's sometimes these customs and practices that begin to build a better mind inside of us. They begin to change that character in a certain way, and in a very tangible way. Sometimes it's very difficult when you begin to look at just even some of the spiritual literature, because it doesn't seem to pinpoint. It's a bit more abstract than what we're ready for right now. That's why I said a lot of times, many of us want the abstractionisms of our traditions, but we don't have the mind yet for that. The abstractions or the abstract aspects are for adults. And you might not have an adult character yet. So, you have to take the milk first. But you keep in mind that you should be growing towards the bigger meat or the more solid food. You see, I know, it's a lot to it, right? I know. Let me go through some of these comments. Vivid Eye says, no doubt an issue with me when I first got into this work was a disrespect of the third dimension. I was too concerned with the extra dimension, took me out of balance for a while. Designs Not Defined says, being in a place of offense keeps you stuck. Sure enough. And Anwar says, my understand of third density is that's the cage we're in. I think he said third dimension though. Yeah, he said third dimension. Vivid Eye says, spending way too much time meditating on the Okan realm. You don't do that. You will go crazy. You don't want to spend too much time there. That's like, spending too much time staring into the sun. Even though people tell you about sun gazing, is a way to do it. But he said trying to connect on a somatic level. Ooh. Yeah, in parentheses, he said, I know, not the right way. Yeah. To the spiritual realms, that type of thing. Let's see. Let me grab some stuff from somebody else. Charles, okay, that's what Charles was clarifying. Designs Not Defined says, my 7-year-old and I talk about his wife all the time. The other day he asked if he has to sleep in the same bed with her all the time. No, tell me he doesn't have to. Find out if he wants more than one too. Don't lock him into a new paradigm of monogamy, which probably is not even going to be natural for him anyway. If you find him around a lot of girls, and just go with it. See, that's the things we need to talk about too with our young children, man. Again, a lot of times, like I said, we take on paradigms from a system without question. And there's so many different aspects of our culture and our customs and our practices that we take on from a system that doesn't even explain them that do not speak to our physiology. They don't speak to the way we are. Like, for instance, like I said, going and negotiating things or haggling. And as I shared before, haggling is an African word. That word is African, haggling. I don't remember the language. That's what I'm saying, African. I don't remember what country it comes from, but haggling. Just like jazz. Jazz is an Amharic word. It means to have fun. The word jazz. So, So he's like, we say like jazz it up. It means to have fun. But anyway, yeah, we take on so many customs and practices. I knew from when I was a little boy, like I wanted a lot of women. I always knew I wanted a lot of money, a lot of women. It was no question in my mind. And I guess I was just fortunate. I never really had anyone tell me about the beauties of being with a wife, or when you find that one love. I never heard anything. I would probably laughed at the person, because as a child I had some very Mac-ish energy about me anyway. So the little Mac in me wouldn't have even tolerated no mess like that. But you see where your son, and I always had like little girls in kindergarten. Like I had more than one always, so it just seemed natural. Your son may be in a similar space too, man. But you don't want to try to oppress the Mac in him, because he might turn out to be a dirty pimp. If you're gonna pimp, you want to be right. Anyway, so let's see. Let me go through some more of these before I get my thumb. I know I did my thumbs down. I just let me step off the thumbs down button. Vivid Eye says, reminds me. I guess he's talking about when we were caning. They cane you over here too. Yeah. So it reminds me of the land we have in Jamaica. Big old soursop tree. I love soursop. Oranges and coconut tree. The kids, if we aren't looking, will take it. Yeah, man. But isn't it beautiful when you see children stealing fruit out of your yard? To me, that's something I've always said, man. This is the worst thing you can do. You stealing fruit. It's not even candy. They don't even eat candy like that on the continent, because people don't have money to waste on things like candy. Like maybe cocoa. Cocoa is big. That's like a big treat. You get some cocoa, but that's what they call it, cocoa. But candy, like, nah, you're not gonna find like. I mean, yeah, in the cities now, because in the major cities they have supermarkets just like we have here. And I mean the same supermarkets, like. I don't know what you guys have, but like Pathmark and ShopRite, if you know those ones. I know in certain parts of the country y'all don't have that, but they have and they're set up the same way when you walk inside. That's so that when foreigners come, they can find things that looks like home, and they got the same cookies and cakes and all of that. But most people don't eat that mess. Money is, they don't have a lot of disposable income there. So if you buying something to fill your stomach, not to address a craving. Michelle says, Chief, I would like to ask about Western culture's time out and screen time restriction forms of punishment. It's claimed that corporal punishment causes PTSD. Well, there's a lot of things in Western culture that cause PTSD from an extreme sense. Again, many of us we're already suffering from PTSD. Video games can cause PTSD. Seeing people shot down in the street. The fact that Alton Sterling's murderers didn't get convicted could cause PTSD. So again, I don't give a damn about what Western culture says about anything. But let's get into like the question a little bit more about Western culture's timeout. Western culture's timeout is not Western's culture timeout. They didn't come up with that. That's always been a part of indigenous traditions. In indigenous traditions, there are primarily three forms of the way that people, not just children, but all people are dealt with. From a social level. Because when you're dealing with timeout, you're dealing with social punishment. As in saying, you're not functioning as someone who is a part of this collective and a part of this group. So we're going to not let you be a part of this group for a little while. That's our stuff, man. That's our stuff. The three primary forms that you'll see, first there's a form, and these are the things, again, that social... Western construct speaks against. The first form that you ever see in any indigenous context is shaming. That's number one, shaming. Now, that's the main thing that we're told in Western culture not to do, right? Because in this culture, hold on a second, man. I'm looking over on the side. I'm distracted. I lit this candle earlier, and the wick got messed up. So while I was talking to you guys, don't drop it. I took a piece of brown paper bag and I made my own wick, and basically my smoke alarms are getting ready to go off because it's like a blazing inferno. All right, give me a second here. That was just too much candle for me. I couldn't handle it. I'm getting a little nervous. I'm talking to you all, but the room here is filling up with smoke. All right, there we go. It looked pretty though. But anyway, all right, cool. So yeah, so shaming is a big thing that we utilize, right? Now here we're taught don't shame, because again we live in an environment where all of the abnormalities and all of the rare occurrences and mutations that one may experience in a natural environment that we always saw as mutations and said, well, listen, let's get this out of the village, let's get this out of the space. We're now told in this environment we have to accept. So if somebody says, I want to walk around and you know, have some profanity written on my shirt, or if I want to, you know, disguise myself as another gender or whatever it is, we're told don't shame that, accept it. You see, we have to accept all of that. So shaming, we say, oh no, don't shame anybody, right? But that was the first method, and you can study this because remember I had a school for a while, so, and I'm talking about with young children. So I spent a lot of time when I created Sedula House because I know I know our babies, so I spent a lot of time learning how to discipline. And I've always I pride myself. Now that's one thing I will get a little cocky about. I'm nice with the discipline. I'm really good with, I'm real creative with it, and my discipline forms work. That's one thing I would say I'm good at. My Achilles heel though is girls. I will admit, girls do get over on me a little bit sometimes because I do tend to give girls preferential treatment. It's hard for me to discipline girls. But overall I'm pretty nice, but I can dictate the discipline. I just need someone to hand it out, a woman to hand it out to the girls, you know. But so yeah, I study discipline a lot. Shaming in indigenous cultures, that's where we start at, right? Shouldn't have did that. Why did you do that? We don't do that. That's not a part of what we do. Only this type of person would do that. That's our thing. Then from shaming, usually the next step in many indigenous cultures are shunning. See, that's the timeout piece that you're asking about, Sister Michelle. Again, the question was, I would like to ask about Western culture timeout. It's not Western. That's Eastern. Shunning. It's the next step after shaming. Where the village or the people won't speak to you, or, again, they put you on a timeout until you repent. Repentance is key. And what does repent mean? Pent means to think, means to go back or to go to the source. So begin to think like the source, or think like God, or go back on your way of thinking. You were going one way, you were thinking one way, and now you say, okay, I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to do it this way now. Let me think differently. You see? So that has to happen during your shunning process. Again, another thing, we got the little timeout thing, but it's not the same as shunning, because timeout is time-based. Yo, go sit in the corner for 5 minutes. And then what? We'll come back the same person. But just sit in the corner for 5 minutes. That doesn't do anything. And I've tried that. You know what I'm saying? I have meditation, or I used to call them meditation stools. But now I do a little bit different. But I got to shun you is different. If we have to get to that point of shunning, you're very clear on the levels of escalation. We're going to shame you first, let you know what you did wrong. You don't want to change? Okay, then shunning. Then after that, after shunning, you know what the next step is? Expulsion. Now, that is not just with children. That's with everybody. I'm sure there's some sisters and brothers listening right now who I bet you there's some sisters and brothers listening right now who's saying, man, that's exactly what he did to me. Yep. I still use these methods. You do something foul to me, or you do something foul in general, I pointed out to you, that's the shaming aspect. You should be ashamed of what you just did. Look, man, okay, you don't respond to that, I'm gonna put you on ice for a little while. I don't call it shame. I'm gonna put you on ice for a little bit. Let you think about what you did until you repent. You don't repent, you don't change your way of thinking. Okay, I'm gonna exile you from the kingdom. That's the way it works. Okay, so timeout is not a Western thing, man. Come on, don't forget, you're talking about a people, in terms of a culture where the perception of how children are dealt with or should be dealt with is completely different than what you may witness in the school buildings and things now, man. Even like I was in education when certain buzzwords started to become popular, like rites of passage and um, circular teaching, where all that is they would take the desks and put them in a circle. Like, come on, man, you got that from the continent. Sitting in a circle and then teaching. You go back to any old movie, black and white movie. Look at the classroom scene. How the students lined up in lines, squared out in lines. Classroom management. That's what they call it. Classroom management. We're gonna put them all in lines. Then they started putting them in circles. You got that from the continent. So nah, man. And the other piece I know you put was, let me see, and screen time restriction forms of punishment. I don't know what that is. I guess screen time, you're saying like can't get on the internet, get on TV, or watch TV for a certain amount of time. I'm guessing you can't use your computer or whatever. I'm guessing that's what you're saying. But please, elucidate when you say screen time forms of punishment. Before I answer that, I want to make sure I have it very, very clear so I can answer it intelligently. DC says, Chief, are you planning any retreats to the continent? Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We're on it. In fact, originally it was planned for this year, but I pushed it back to 2018. Maybe 2018, I'm not sure. I'm setting some things up right now. And last year, our new space that I've been working on, we had a little some village politics, some little problems in that village, and I didn't want to bring people in that particular space before then. And so right now I actually have, matter of fact, I need to call the brother back. He called me earlier today. I have a situation in Nigeria I might be working on, but I really wanted to do Ghana before Nigeria, but we'll see. Yeah, we're working on it. We're working on it. But more than a retreat, let me just say that, man. I'm as far as the tour guide thing, I ain't really too beat for all of that. I'm on it. Like, listen, who wants to come live in paradise with us? So let me just put it out there like that. I know I never really talked about that on the air, but that's really where we're at it. We're at with at this point. No one in my family is particularly excited about living in America at this point. So, it's not just a temporary thing where, hey, let's go to the continent for 2 weeks and and have a beautiful experience. I'm like, man, let's leave. Let's go. How many of y'all are tired of being torn up out here by the jackals and the wolves and the hyenas? So things are moving around a little bit, but again, more information will go out to the right people in due time for that. I have already spoken to some of you all about some of the other plans. In fact, some of you have actually come out to the land in Ghana. Several students have already come and seen what I've been working on. It's not an open invitation to everybody because I don't know. Some of y'all need to stay here. Stay here. Let your bloodlines in here too. Don't come over. No. So it's not open for everybody. It's open for those who are of right character and ready to do some things. But as far as a retreat, yeah, that's light stuff. But yeah, so we'll be working on that. So yeah, Sister Michelle, she did confirm. Yeah, she's talking about screen time, like tablets and stuff and all of that. As far as putting people on timeout because timeout in terms of like can't use your tablet or TV or whatever, that's kind of a tricky one because I think it really depends on how you run your home culture. Like, for instance, that wouldn't work with my youth because they don't really watch TV anyway. They're into their phones a little bit more now, but even that's like most of the time the batteries are dead on their phone. Like, they're not really that into it like that. So I think it depends on the family, but I think you got to be careful about what you create as punishment and what you create as reward. Like, I'll give you a small example. One point when we were really heavy on our raw vegan stuff as a family, one time one of my youth, had achieved something. So he was like, yo, where do you want to eat? And like to celebrate. Or no, I think we told the youth like, yo, we could go to the Ethiopian spot. right? So basically, we'll eat cooked food from the Ethiopian spot. But then I was like, nah, hold on, wait up, we can't do that because now it seems like cooked food is a reward. you know, as much as I love Ethiopian food and all, but nah, you got to be careful with that. So again, being on a tablet for some may be a punishment to be blasted in the face with EMFs. So I don't know, that one is a little tricky. I'll be honest with you. Taking away material things because you weren't acting right. So then the reward for acting right would be material things. I would stay away from that one. You know. Um, let's see what else we have. So Brother Lowe says, I know in historic Apache culture, if they exile you, you can't go to no Apache tribe. You are completely alone. Right, as it should be. As it should be. You shouldn't be allowed to go back amongst your people because you are not of your people. Yeah, man. Like you're not, if you can't follow the customs, the rules, and the mores, and you're bringing confusion and chaos to your community, you got to go. Go out in the middle of the desert and keep walking until you die. Yeah, I know. That's horrible. But remember, there's stages. You see, it's not like somebody did something wrong. You say, all right, get out. This is when you've gotten to a point where when you have to exile somebody, that means you've recognized that they're irreparable. They're incorrigible. They're gonna always be a scourge to your community. So they can't come back in the community, man. See, that's part of the problems again that we take on from Western culture, is that we're all inclusive. So there's so many different things that are very offensive to our spirits, very offensive to our nature, and we see them and we just allow them to persist. It just doesn't make any sense. We'll live in communities where people. I remember back in Jamaica years ago, this woman I was with for a while. She ended up having to move to America, which is how we linked up, because there was a racist. I'm sorry, racist. There was a rapist running around in her environment, raping all the girls, and telling the girls who was going to get raped next. And then he had set his eyes on her. Was like, "Yo, you're next." So her family got together and got her out of there. I'm like, yo, why ain't nobody cut this man's head off? That didn't make sense to me. I was like, what are y'all too Christian for that? You too Christian to kill? The man is raping your daughters, and not only is he raping them, he's saying, I'm doing it, and I'm telling you who I'm going to rape next. Obviously, he's mentally ill. You got to go, man. Let him come back and start over. Start over as a baby. He got to go now, though. So you're just gonna let your daughters get raped and see, that's why and of course, and that was a problem she had, man. She had no respect for men. That's which eventually led to us no longer being able to be together. But how could you? That's to say, a lot of times, man, we always want to go back to the plantation. Yeah, because back in slavery, we didn't protect the women. I mean, you can't go that far back. Sisters don't even remember that stuff genetically. They just use that as a cop-out to be rebellious. But there's some stuff that happens right now, man, that we don't touch upon. And back in places like country, like where this sister's from and where I have relatives from, you got areas where cops don't come. You know what I mean? Like, so you have what we call village justice. I got an uncle that got locked up for a very long time, decades behind that, enacting some village justice, man, with this snitch, or informer, as we call, ratted on him. But I mean, maybe it was, I don't know, but there was a brother who kept stealing from his farm. He lived up in the hills. This is in Jamaica. And uncle was like, yo, come back here again. You keep stealing my food. It's how I feed my family. You come back here, keep stealing my food, we're gonna have a problem. Right? Brother came back, stole the food. Uncle caught him, cut his hand off. Right? I'm like, yeah, next. What's for dinner? And basically it was a whole big thing. And he ended up going to jail behind that, which I shouldn't have, but he went to jail for a long time behind that. You know what I mean? Village justice though, man. Now you got that on the continent. Definitely got that on the continent. But I'm just saying, like, again, some of the sentiment sometimes that we get from the sisters, it doesn't, you don't have to go as far back as the 1600s. Sometimes it's some real soft stuff we do now, that is right in our face, man. Situations that we can address a little bit differently that we don't. And I'm not saying all of us. I'm not saying it happens all the time, but when it does, you better pay attention. You better look, pay close attention to it, and understand that there's going to be, because you got to understand the narrative that's being put in their heads. So you always got to keep your guard up. Always, you don't let it down. So let's see. Let me go back to chat. Michelle says, my daughter's timeout in tears last 5 seconds because the minute she sits down, she's like, sorry, mommy, hug. Yeah, see, I couldn't take that. Yeah, little girls, they make a fool out of me, basically. I'm nice with I'm telling them nice with the discipline, but with little girls, but Baba, I didn't, oh, all right. It took another woman to hit me to that though, because I was getting worked over bad. And another sister was like, yo, they play you a lot, right? It's like, yeah, but I know, but it's hard to be pimpish on little girls. I can be cold on a grown woman. I'd be cold on an elder woman, but on a little girl, it's hard to be cold on a little girl. It's hard to put your pimp hand down on a little girl, man. Nah, man. I let them get away with things. So I used to have the sisters come and help. When you come discipline, I can't do it. Anwar says, I agree. I have been thinking of my exit strategy back to Suriname. Yeah, man. Yeah. Get up out of here, man. That's not for everybody. I'm not saying everybody needs to leave again, but it certainly is good to have a path of exit. Absolutely. It's certainly good to have a path of exit. Sometimes we don't think about, again, as men, being able to make strategic retreats. If the kitchen gets a little bit too hot, and being able to say, well, at least I have somewhere to go. And especially if you start to set up your passive streams of income, you get your real estate, you get your property here, and or just even different assets that you're making money off of. You don't have to be present for it, because a lot of times you move to some of these countries. I don't know what Suriname is like, but in terms of its economy, but certain places you'll go to where you could live on a fourth of what you currently earn now, and live better than how you live now. Especially if you can filter in foreign dollars into where you live, which is not so hard anymore because of the advent of the internet. It's not as difficult to create income and not necessarily be localized. Again, I'm not telling everyone to escape the US or anything like that, man, but it's good just to have a spot to go if things get hot. And even if it is in the US, you may say, hey man, I got a little cabin retreat in Montana, in the snow, where it's cold all the time. So that way, if there's any type of bacterial or virus disease that we're dealing with, those things don't do well in the cold. So I got something in Montana. Or you might have something up in the hills of West Virginia, up in the Appalachians, far above sea level, some type of flood or some situation, a place you can just go and hide. New Mexico is tough. It's you can get a lot of junk land for cheap and stuff out in New Mexico, but then you got the issue of droughts. So water becomes an issue. A lot of times people say, oh, well, I got my stuff hooked up, maybe North Carolina. You got to be careful with the places where there's a lot of naval bases or army bases and armories. You right in the midst of it all, or you may say, I got a spot in Texas. You got to be careful about them cartels coming up from Mexico. So, as a man, you got to look at some of these things strategically. Upstate New York is a great place. Yeah, I know there's a lot of neo-Nazis up there, but there's also a lot of coves and stuff where you can be up there. And again, you have the cold. You want to pay attention to where, even if you're going to stay in the US, I'm gonna give you a little hint, man. Pay attention to the jet streams. Look at a map, pull it up on Google. You can find one, and look up a jet stream map. That's important, because if there's any type of nuclear fallout, then you'll get a sense of where basically which way the winds blow. You see, that's important. You want to know things like that. You might find that, where you say, okay, well, I don't want to leave the continent, but where I'm at right here is perfect. It's cheap to live. I can set myself up. I can live off the grid or live off the land, farm. There's plenty of big game I can hunt, whatever. You might be in the middle of a jet stream. So again, if there's a nuclear fallout, it's all in your face. But just keep in mind, man, you don't necessarily have to go back to Africa, like Brother Anwar just said, man. Suriname. You could go to places in Central America. It's places that you could literally, I mean, technically, if you think about it, places that you could walk to. You could walk from, I don't know, Portland, Oregon, to South America, technically. But I'm saying I wouldn't advise it, but you never know what might happen. You might have to. Some of your ancestors walked from, South Carolina all the way up to Canada, barefoot, for their freedom. You got cars. It's right there, right there. So, yeah, I mean, just keep that in mind. But yeah, man, there's a lot of different options. Let's go through these things. Michelle says, I see that it's now that I have a good habit of exiling people out of my sphere often. Lotus Scholar said, that's surprising for Jamaica. Yeah, it is. That's why I was like kind of, wilding out about it. Omar says, yeah, Chief, my father has built an empire and it will go to waste if I don't go back and maintain it. The plot thickens. The story is deep, a little too much to share publicly. Yeah, well, you shared enough. Your father has an empire or whatever he set up down there in Suriname, and you up here scrimping and scrapping like good times. Just keeping your head above water. Yeah. The plot thickens. You better go over there and make sure that dynasty continues. Good thing you had sons too. The dynasty goes on. You may have to have some more. Not too late for you. Yeah, that's important, man. That's something to think about. When you're establishing again those kingdoms and establishing those dynasties, that's important, man. But yeah, Brother Anwar, okay. So we already know what you need to be doing, man. We already know what you need to be doing. Yeah, hanging in the child line. That's the line that most people can't figure out from the Good Time song. Hanging in a child line. But yeah, man. Yeah, legacy is important. All right, we're gonna get ready to get out of here. We're well over. And I think we covered what it is that we want to talk about. Again, I was really just building on, for those of you coming in much later. I know people come in all different kinds of time, but internal growth versus external growth. The external growth is false growth. Like I said, it's got to be in you, not on you. And you always know that the true signs of internal growth, because the things that you were once hankering for with a childish mind, you no longer hanker for. And sometimes it's very hard to accept, especially when we think about ideas about leaving, the US and things like that. You hear me say things like that because for so long, maybe when you were younger, you wanted to take over the world. Hey, man, I want a high rise in New York, man. And I want a place in the hills in California. And, I want a home in the summer home or a winter home in Palm Beach, Florida. And, I want to have this and want to have that and hobnob with this one, hobnob with that one. And then as that's your childish thing, because you think all of those things are going to bring you happiness and fulfillment. And in having those things that they would begin to heal some of the internal rift that you may have inside of you. But then as you begin to grow spiritually and you begin to develop a more healthy sense of character, you find that you just don't want those things anymore. And sometimes it's hard to let go of the concept of not wanting them. We find that in the sacred Odu of Okaran Meji, and our Odu Ifa, symbolized by two twin heads, representing our attachments to concepts and things and our fear of letting go. Okaran Meji. That's why if you look at the formation of the Odu, it's dual things coming down into one thing. It's sacred to the Orisha Ochosi, the hunter, or more specific, the archer, one arrow at a time. And sometimes it's very hard for us to let go of those things Like, you may have spent your life saying, man, I want a woman like this, who looks like this, and da 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 da. And then you get to a point, you start really growing, and you're like, man, it ain't even about that. I thought that I would find my identity through my woman. Or I thought I would find my identity through my car, or through my jewelry, or again, me losing weight and getting a 6-pack and big arms and shoulders. I thought I was going to find my identity through that. And it come to find out that ain't it. That's not it. You know, when you start developing that internal growth, you find that you have less desires, because you learn that desire only leads to suffering. So you don't intentionally try to force yourself into a place of non-wanting, or intentionally trying to force yourself into a place of success and achievement. You're not hustling and bustling for that anymore, because again, we live in a society where that's where it's all about. You know, that's what it's all about. Achieve this, succeed at that, do this, do that, do that, do that. And then you find, man, that's not even bringing any type of internal growth. It's where you start getting into the science of the hermit. You know, the more and more you go, the more simplistic that you find your life may become. You know, you just don't want so much. You know, you'd be surprised how it feels to be in a place for longer than a month and not eat one genetically modified organism. You'd be surprised, being in a space like that, how little you eat, how fulfilled you are with the environment. You know, how much food you turn away, how small your portions are when you're fulfilled internally. How much you bring your libido and your ego under control when you feel that internal fulfillment. I was giving that one little example, of course, you know, that one little example. But yeah, man, you know, I'm just saying, in terms of growth, when you start to experience real internal growth, the things that you were fighting against and thinking that you had to achieve externally in order to heal internally, you won't even be thinking about them anymore. They'll become a non-issue after a while. Like, you may say, I'm lonely, I need to have a husband. I need to have a husband because I'm so lonely. I need a husband. I'm tired of sleeping alone at night. I feel like nobody wants me. I'm wrapping my legs around my pillows, or I'm sleeping on my sofa every night to feel like at least somebody's hugging me. And then the more you start to grow, you'll just kind of forget that's what you wanted. You'll get to a point where you'll forget that you were lonely. It just will become a non-issue. But then a lot of times there's things in our childish mind that will pull us back. No, don't forget you're lonely. Don't forget that's your identity. Don't forget that's your problem. You got low self-esteem. You got a low sense of self-worth. Don't forget you're shy. Don't forget you got anger issues. Don't forget you have childhood trauma. Ego. Because see, the ego only knows survival. It only knows survival and defense. That's it. See, I can tell your level of growth. I'm gonna tell you a little trick, just by how defensive you are about anything. Tells me immediately. Sometimes, especially when y'all had to call in shows with Kim, I would hear some of you guys on the phone, you know, politely arguing with each other. Well, hold on a second. Think about it this way. Why are you defending so much? Because you're babies. You haven't gotten to that point yet where you realize there's nothing to defend. That's why sometimes people call here with stupidness. What do you see me do? I joke and laugh. I have fun with it. I turn it into teaching moments. I'm not defensive. There's no ego involved. It becomes a teaching moment. That's growth. So a lot of times, again, when you're functioning from the ego, and sometimes we don't realize it because we think the things that we're defending are noble. So we say, no, I'm defending my culture. I'm defending my ancestors. They don't need you to defend them. Your culture doesn't need you to defend it. Your culture is alive and extends itself. It was there before you were even born. It will be there after you die. It knows how to keep itself alive. It knows how to morph and mutate. It knows how to dodge haters. You don't. The truth doesn't need you to defend it. You see? So that thing that 9 times out of 10 you're defending is your own sense of self, is your own lack of growth. You don't want that egg cracked open. That's the number one sign. I always know when someone has lack of growth, they're very defensive. And they'll call it 1,000,001 different things. Or I got anger issues, or I don't know how to communicate with people, or I'm very emotional. It's none of that. It's your ego. You're defensive because you have an ego that's out of control, because you haven't really experienced the internal growth that we talk about. All of it for you is external. You've learned all the right things to say. You've read all the right books. You've listened to the lectures. You have your divination set. You learned how to make omiero. You have your elekes. You got everything popping except for the internal growth, because you have not addressed your fundamental issues. So therefore, you are still very defensive because you're operating from ego. You're operating from stagnation because you're not operating from growth. If you're not operating from growth, you're operating from stagnation. The ego functions through stagnation, and it stays alive through defense. And the way it stays alive through defense is it keeps fear active. Fear is what the ego feeds on. It has to keep you fearful. So as soon as somebody says something, you create fears in your mind. You trying to control me. You trying to change me. You trying to this, that. Oh my God, you trying to kill me. Because that's what's happening. The ego knows if you take this in, I'll die. And the spirit will come forth because you won't need me so much. You'll be functioning from spiritual intuition. I don't want that to happen. So let me keep you functioning from your history and your past. I'll keep you stagnant in that way. That's what the ego does. And that's when you can immediately see, when you want to do those point checks in yourself, am I growing? Am I not growing? How defensive are you? And I mean, true defense. You might say, nah, I don't defend nothing, but we're not talking about people who are passive aggressive. All right. So don't throw all you passive aggressive people, don't throw yourself in the bunch, because they got a lot of them. Or who like to throw a little shade, a little snide remarks and think people don't pick up on them. No, we ain't talking about that. You see what I'm saying? So that's how you get to monitor, even within yourself, your level of growth. Look at the things that you're still racing, especially for those of you who are a little older, 35 and up. How many dragons are you still trying to slay? Oh, if I could just do this, I'm still trying to get my business off the ground. I know some of you have been trying to get businesses off the ground for the last 15 years, same business. And you don't know how to change your posturing. If your business finally got off the ground now, you got money, you wouldn't even know what to do with the money, because the things you dreamed about doing with the money at this point wouldn't even make sense to you. Once I get this business off the ground, I will put some rims on my car and get some jewelry. And when I pull up to the club, they're going to be sick. Well, you're 40 years old now. That's done. Unless you're talking about the jazz club. That's done. But see, you're still locked into that thinking. You're still locked into those thought patterns. That's the ego doing that to you. So you're still running around trying to chase something that your growth is telling you, we don't even want that anymore. We don't even care about that anymore. We don't even care about the recognition that those things bring anymore, because we don't even care about being recognized by those same people. You see? Think about this. Hey, women, I'm gonna give you something. Women and men, some of you are still savage. So this example is not gonna work on you. Some of you still barbaric. And barbarism isn't a bad thing, by the way. Barbarism, by definition, really just means someone who speaks a different language than you. So the key is to civilize a barbarian. And civilization, what it actually means? It means legalizing criminal acts. Think about that by definition, to legalize criminal acts. Is to civilize someone or civilize a previous barbaric act. And just think about that. So that means we're acknowledging that what we're doing is barbaric and crude, but we'll make it through legislation, we'll make it legal, and then call that, and then now it becomes a civil act. Well, don't you see that every day? I mean, I won't give you example. I kind of just want to leave that out there. I want that's what I just want you to kind of think about. It's kind of deep though. You know, it's almost like when we talk about confiscation, we say, "Oh, the feds came and confiscated my stuff," or the IRS came and confiscated my things. You know, by definition, confiscation means an illegal seizure. So when your things are confiscated, it means they were stolen. The feds came and stole your things. The IRS stole your property. Anyway, I don't want to get off into that. That's another show. But what I'm saying is that here's an example. Now you're enlightened. You're perceiving things differently, right? Male or female, right? You're walking somewhere or sitting next to a park bench, on a park bench. You're sitting next to someone, and you look over in their bag, and they have a whole bunch of organic fruit, crystals, and books on culture, history, and spirituality. And you're single. How you feel about the person? Now, for some of you doesn't matter, but for some of you, you might say, well, I'm intrigued. But you may not have always felt like that. There may have been a time when you were like, well, I need to see how they look, how much jewelry they have, what are they driving, what kind of shoes do they have on? But you go down the list. But now sometimes, you know, because of your growth, your desire and your eye and your perception changes. And you may not have a hankering or a desire towards certain things, but you have a natural pull towards certain frequencies now. And when you're locked into the egoic patterns of your history, you'll try to deny that hankering and that pull. You'll say, wow, well, I see the person eats healthy, and I see they like studying, and I see they're into, you know, some type of alternative or natural sciences, but what kind of car do they drive? Because that stuff don't pay the bills. Yes, it does. Look at Dr. Africa. Dr. Sebi. They paid their bills with that stuff. Queen of Fuba. You see what I'm saying? So I'm just giving you small examples, but you know, again, what we find attractive, what we find beautiful, what we find lovely begins to change because of our levels of growth. You see? So that's how you can always tell, man. That's just a little like litmus test you can give yourself. Look at your levels of defensiveness at certain things, you know, and the things that you're usually most defensive about will be those core issues that you're dodging from. That's why, again, like I said, yeah, people come and go, and I know why. I always know why. I don't chase anybody down because I'm only really interested in the thoroughbreds, to be honest with you. Especially if you're an adult. Man, I'm not trying to spend 10, 15 years trying to get a hard-headed adult to listen. You're not that important to the community. I gotta be honest with you. Children are way more important to you. 10, 15 years invested in a child, you know what you got at the end of that? 10, 15 years invested in an adult, you got somebody after 15 years to say, you right, I should have listened. You right. But now you're too tired to do anything about what you just learned. Now you old. Nah, man, I ain't doing all that. I joke and laugh with it though. When you start getting hard-headed and rebellious, I laugh it off. Keep it moving. So save my energy for the babies. You know. But there's a huge difference between internal growth and external growth. And trust me, I see the difference. And many other teachers do too. We know the difference. We may not comment on it all the time, but we know the difference. It's got to be in you, not on you. And on you is that fake growth. We know the difference. We could feel it in your spirit. We could feel it in your vibration. It's like when you do something foul to somebody and you say, oh, I'm sorry. You know, I'm sorry if you got offended by that. But come on, man, ain't no real apology. You didn't repent. So you deserve to still be shunned or to still be shamed or maybe even exiled because you didn't repent. We know the difference when your vibration changes and you truly come to an epiphany or you truly change. I see the difference with some of you in the chat room. Some of you ain't learning jack. I see it. And some of you are. Some of you are soaking up this information to pretty up your technicolor coat. So now when you go out tomorrow, you can say, yeah, I was meditating on something last night. Internal growth, we're going to be stealing my stuff. Internal growth versus external growth, and how you can see the signs of it. Wow, where'd you come up with that? I'll be meditating with my egun. Are you saying everything wrong? I practice the Yoruba. I'm into Yoruba and the Orisha. I be seeing you. I see some of you. Some of you get on YouTube, make those little videos. I be catching this sometimes because students send that stuff to me. Check this one out. This one's stealing from you now. Check that one out. I look at it and I laugh. Yeah, man. Get it together. Get it together. Get it together. And if you're ready to make your exodus, stop playing. Ain't nothing stopping you. Really be honest about how committed and devoted you are to something that you may not like. Be honest about that. Some of us still feel like we gotta have to fulfill that American dream. Some of us are still on that, or some of us have back to Africa dreams. But you can be honest about where you really want to be in terms of your mindset. In terms of your mental and your emotional goals. That's when the real growth comes in, and you're not guilty about it. Some of us, here, I'm gonna give you one. I'm gonna give you a hard one. Some of us melanoid people who have been studying for a long time now. This is the hard one. It's the hard one. Let me see. Before I even say this, let me look at my numbers. I want to see how many drop off after I say this. I like playing that game. Some of us are just not that mad at white people anymore. Oh, there you go. There you go. Okay, no, it came back. I know it's going to drop though. It never fails. Yep, back down. Some of us are just not as mad as we were when we first started out on this journey. We want to rip their heads off. But as we study more and more and more, we're just not that pissed off with them anymore. We're still not happy about the things that are happening. We still recognize the loss of life, but some of us are getting to a point where like maybe it's not really so much white people. And what the heck is a white person? Why am I using color coding? Some of us don't even call ourselves black anymore. And that's all we were saying in the beginning. But again, we start realizing, wait a minute. This whole method of color coding came from somebody else. Since when in any indigenous culture that we classify ourselves by a color? At least literally, they may be in a metaphorical sense and usually for ranking purposes, but no, that's not us. So our whole ideas around black power and black this and maybe none of that's actually what I'm into anymore at this point. And sometimes it's hard to let go. Someone's always like, and I'm just giving you an example. I'm not telling you what to do, but I know this for a fact because I've had some of these quiet, secret conversations with some of you. And seeing some of the moves that you've made. Some of you are not so pissed off about people being gay anymore. When you first came into, yeah, mother effing faggots and these dykes and living, and we need to do this with them. And then after a while, you study, you're like, what, huh? A faggot? I ain't even think about that. Because the things that you thought needed to be rearranged externally in order for it to bring you internal happiness, you got to a point where you realize, man, it wasn't even about that, man. That was a trick. It wasn't even about that. It was some stuff internally that I needed to deal with. I was creating some of my own calamity. Now, I'm not speaking about being an apologist. So let me get something straight here. I'm not saying that slavery happened because people were walking around being negative. All right. So let me just get that real straight. Because see, that's where a lot of that law attraction teaching comes from. You know, what you get in The Secret and with Abraham and Jerry Hicks and all them, you know, and Jack Canfield and all of the law of, you know, no, you trying to tell us that, I know what you're trying to do. You trying to alleviate some of your cultural and ethnic guilt. Nah, player. So no, I'm not saying that. So just let me be very clear, because I know how people like to foolishly take things out of context. But what I am saying is that after a while, when you begin to develop and grow, you get to a place mentally and spiritually and intellectually where certain things that you hankered for no longer become the hankering. Certain things just don't become so important. A lot of you now have a system of divination that you can use. Do you use it to try to win the lotto every day? How many of you do I speak to and you say, you know what, I'm kind of feel bad about this, chief, but I don't really care about money that much. Is that a bad thing? No, that's just your growth. You get to a point where you can start recognizing, tap into what is important. Anyway, let's go to Anwar. He says, one of the things that I had in my thoughts, you talking about going back to Suriname, one of the things that I had in my thoughts was being separated from my sons. One of the reasons why I have been in my area for so long. Nah, man, come on. You already know the answer to that, man. Separate from them boys. Come on. You're gonna sacrifice building a dynasty so you can be a nanny. So your sons don't even get to see you in their fullness because you want to be close to them. That's bad news bears. Okay, a lot of men, we do that. It's a mistake. I'm telling you, as a older brother to you, I'm older than you, but I'm also telling you as an older brother who has seen brothers older than me make that same mistake. Stay in bad marriages because, well, I don't want to be away from my children. Nah, go build your dynasty, man. Give your children something to resolve to. It's not about all the bear hugs and playing video games and warm times with your children. As a man, you're not a woman. Let mommy do that. And you only, if I'm not mistaken, you only got one young son. You know, your other son is an adult, pretty much. You know, so get out of that way of thinking. Be separated from my son. Sometimes as men, I know this is some cold-blooded stuff, man, but sometimes you got to harden your heart a little bit. Just like you see brothers sometimes who come over from other countries, you know, all different countries, Afghanistan and Israel and Kenya and Ghana and Nigeria, and their families are back home. They come over here to make the money and send it back home so that their children can have something better, man. Don't stay on the plantation just to keep your family company. Because when one of your sons really rises up and he's ready to leave and he's like, man, I want to get up out of here, what does he resolve to? Nothing, because my daddy didn't go build that when he was supposed to. He stayed here so he could play frisbee with me. I know it's cold-blooded. I know it is, man. But again, you know, we live in a society where we're not really taught some of those things in terms of you know, like Michelle, okay, you said, Brother Anwar, just do and shine like the sun, they will follow. Yeah, your sons might follow. Or let's try this, Anwar. Let me give you something even better. They might not follow you because they're not currently being raised under your customs and culture. Because the woman that you had them with is not living by your customs and culture. So let me give you some. This is like a men's call advice I'm gonna give you, but I'm gonna give you a little bit because you know I keep it more hardcore when I call it on the men's call. Let me give you some real talk, brother. Go build your empire and go make some more sons. Some of them will follow, some of them won't. It's a numbers game. I know it's cold-blooded, and I know some of the sisters listening is like, Chief's a a-hole. But you talking about building empires and being a ruler, this is how you got to think. Get out of that American way of thinking, or not even, I can't even say American. It's not American. It's effeminized. We've been effeminized in that sense. And a lot of us brothers have gone through it, not just you, a lot of myself included, man. up in kitchens with aprons on that say number one dad and all. Man, F all that Cosby Show stuff, man. No, we're men. Most of the time as men, we're not even around our families like that because we got to go out and hunt. We got to go out and find new territory. And we might be the ones that go out and get killed. And it's the children's uncles, our brothers that end up raising our children. See, that's why you need those family systems in place, man. Because while you're away hunting and doing what you think, it's your father, your mother, your younger brother, whatever, that's holding down the fort for you. But no, don't be localized, man, because you're afraid you're going to lose some. So what? Your son grows up and says, I didn't get to know my father that much when I was younger. He went away to go build something. But that's how it is supposed to be for sons, man, because we men. We men, man. We don't need to have cuddly relationships with our fathers. You know, I know all that sounds tough. Y'all not used to hearing me say stuff like that. And I have very warm relationships with my youth for the most part. But the boys, I don't need to have that. Even the girls, nah. We don't need all that, man. See, that's why you have to make sure you fertilize the right eggs, man. You have women that are building them up towards your mission. When I tell you that men create civilizations and women absorb themselves into those civilizations, so they're raising your children to be your heir. Just like Osset was raising Heru to take his father's place. You see? But Heru wasn't even in the physical. He was the ruler of the underworld at that point. That's real, man. That's how it goes, man. Nah, but listen, man, all that. I'm gonna stay here. I want to be able to play catch with my son and tuck him in at night. That's his mama's job. You go take over land. You go conquest. You see? And again, like I said, I know it's rough, but sometimes the relationship that we look for from our parents is not healthy. You know, and it's only as a result of us not really having healthy communities. So because we don't have healthy communities, and we know, like, well, if I leave my sons here, who's going to teach them about consciousness? Who's going to teach them about this, that? Well, let me tell you something. If you're not functioning in your proper role, even if you're teaching about consciousness, they ain't going to take it from you because they're going to look at you funny. See, I can talk about consciousness with my youth because I do tough man stuff with them at the same time. So the consciousness comes later, but they have the culture and the customs and the practices first. You know, the consciousness is like second nature, but even still, there's certain things that my daughters are going to get from their mates that I can't teach them, even though their mates may say the same exact thing that I'm saying, but they don't want to hear it from me. You see what I'm saying? So I'm telling you, some of you brothers, and I'm not just talking about you, Anwar, I'm saying in general, because I've heard things like that a lot, man. Y'all gotta learn to harden your hearts, man. And if we really want to do something of power and take some things over, you know, because don't forget, at the same time, Anwar, what you're speaking about is a perfect example of what I've been talking about. We have children too early. You're not even 40 yet. Remember, I said, man, you shouldn't be thinking about marriage till you 40, 45, 50. So that means no children until 40, 45, 50. So you would have already went back to Suriname. You would have already taken on your father's empire and then said, okay, now let me start having babies at 40. Now I think you got 2-3 children. I'm not sure how many. I think it's 2 or 3. But what I'm saying is that so now that creates a delay. It creates a hesitation in your building. Because now you got to play Mr. Mom. But let me tell you, sometimes when you make mistakes like that, you're just going to have to acknowledge that the children are not going to get some things, man, and just keep it moving. 2. Okay, yeah, you have 2 children. Man, let that older one, the 19-year-old, let him take care of the younger boy. You go establish what you're supposed to establish. Let your children see you in your glory at every moment. My youth said that to me the other night. They were like, yo, you know, you're the smartest person I know. I said, you goddamn right. Let them see you in your glory. And if they can't see you in your glory, don't let yourself be seen. And maybe one day I'll share with you privately, Brother Armware. I have lived that. And in a very hard way. Spent, I don't want to tell my business on the air, man, but sometimes you got to say, you know what? If I can't present myself right to my children, I am not even going to be around. I'm going to go get myself together, because it's unhealthy for them to see me as anything other than what I'm supposed to be. Don't fall for that effeminate BS. Sometimes you got sisters that say, as long as you around, just come and babysit sometime. Ignore that. They don't know what they're talking about. Just like you can't tell her how to be a mother, she can't tell you how to be a father. Okay, no, you don't need to be around all the time. You don't need to be babysitting and all that. No, when they come see you, it needs to be a treat. We going to your father's house if you're not with them. And they know when they go to Baba's house, man, it's gonna be lit, man. It's gonna be, damn, Baba got, it's like a palace, marble floors and dirt bikes we can ride. We got little motorcycles here and all. Like, he's established a palace for us. And one day I'm gonna take this palace over. You see, that's what you want to establish in those children's mind. I remember the first time I told my baby girl, and she was real young. And I was like, you know what, baby girl, you my right hand. And she said, what you mean? I said, I need you, baby girl. You are my right hand. I said, I trust you because you take care of the business. Every time Baba tell you to do something or whatever, you make sure all the other little children do it the way I told them it's supposed to be done. I noticed that about you. And she couldn't have been any older than maybe 3-4 years old. Let me see. I'm going to tell you the exact age. She was 4. And my neighbor was cracking jokes because he was like, man, he calls her the little boss. He said, I hear her out there in the backyard saying, no, this way, that. She's real bossy. And I said, yeah, baby. I said, one day I'm going to have you supervise and take over one of my factories, one of my manufacturing plants. And she darn near flipped out. What? Seriously? For real, Baba? And I said, yeah, you're going to be a supervisor. And she said, no, I'm going to be a supervisor. And she went all around telling everybody that she was not just going to be a supervisor, but a supervisor. But here's the thing. I wasn't joking. I was dead serious. No, you're going to take over this manufacturing plant, little girl. That's what you're going to do. You see? So I've been for years establishing my kingdom, man. My children know that they ain't even thinking about who am I going to work for. Nah, man, you ain't got to do none of that. We got everything right here in the house, man. We're going to keep building up this our new brand and it's our new family name. That's what we going to do. So that's how you brothers need to be thinking, man. That may mean that, that may mean that you maybe your visitation is not, if you're not with the mother, it may not be every weekend or every other weekend, even, it may be once a month. It may be, just the summers because you're busy building what you're supposed to build. And it doesn't mean you're a deadbeat if you put in that work in. You see? So then when your children are old enough, because trust me, man, they're small children. It passes, brother. It's quick. One day they'll be jumping on your back while you're trying to sit in a chair and watch TV, and they'll be racing and jumping all over the chair, and then the next thing after that they'll be borrowing the car. Yeah, I'm telling you, it goes real quick, man. They'll be as tall and big as tall as you. You got a big son. So they're adults much longer, much longer. They're adults longer than their small children. So you build up their life and their road for them. And that's Ifa. I can give you the Pataki and the Odu for that. I can give you that. But that's Ifa. So they will have a good life. They will have a path laid out for them and people will respect them and love them. You build the kingdom now for them. And that may mean the mother may look at you and say, hey, sometimes I want to break from the kids. I want to go out and da-da-da-da. Why don't you come pick up the kid? Nah, I ain't here for that. I don't do that. No, she may say, what you mean? That's selfish. Whatever. I'm building something here. I'm not here for babysitting purposes. What I'm building is more important than babysitting. I'll send you some money. We'll hire a babysitter. or I'll pay your little sister, or I'll pay your mother or your cousin. I'll send $50 so you can go kick it for the night. But no, I'm not going to be reduced to that. We don't do the same job. See, that's that rough stuff that people don't like, man. But, you know, I'm just going to hit you with that gem, brother. You know, and that's for anybody listening. You might have to leave, you know, your wife and children with your kinsmen, with your father, with your brother, with your uncle, and say, hey, baby, you know, I'm going to go over here because where we're living right now, what we're doing is not really working for us. And I'm concerned about the future of our children, you know, what they're really inheriting. So I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna spend 2 months over here, a month over here, 3 months over here. I'm gonna go build us a house, and then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna get y'all. Yeah, man. Please, brothers, please take, you know, give that some serious thought. Because like I said, man, I know brothers much older than me are like, man, I wish I would have done what you was doing when I was your age, man. I stayed locally and got me a little city job because, you know, my first wife I wasn't with anymore, and I didn't want to be too far from my kids from that wife. And then I got the, yeah, I hear you, and got caught up. And now you're old and you have nothing to give to your damn kids. Excuse me, I didn't mean to say it like that. You have nothing to give to your children. Nothing. Except for some whack advice that they probably won't listen to because you didn't manifest anything in your life. So why would they listen to you? They won't. So who are they going to listen to? The society will provide more structure, opportunities for upwardly mobile growth because you didn't provide none. You didn't say, yeah, I got a manufacturing plant you're gonna run. You didn't give them that. Or here, I got a motorcycle shop. You're gonna handle that. Or we have some land over there. You know, you're not so strong with the academics, but maybe you would like to farm. Let's see about getting you some farm equipment or whatever it is. You know, you got to be larger than life on every level when it comes to your youth, man, because this society is a mother. And when they come visit Baba, see, that's what I told you. I'm not a fan of men living with their women. I said that. It's distracting. You spend every waking moment building that empire, man. And let the women just raise the children and keep it light for them. Because you know, when you empire building, you ain't that cool to be around anyway. You're crabby. You know, because you constantly on the grind. But then when the youth come and visit and they see what you're building, let's say if you got some land and you built a greenhouse and you built an extension and you got new animals or whatever you're doing. Wow, Baba's really putting something together here. Look at this. You want to be that dude, man. Mark my words, brothers. I know what I'm talking about, man. I know it sounds hard. I know some people may not agree with what I'm saying, although I really could care less because I know what I'm saying. All right. People are very foolish nowadays. So they think and they feel foolish things. But as men, you got to be able to look beyond the foolishness. That's your job. You can't lead and guide a family if you stuck in the circles of emotional foolishness. We don't work from emotion, man. We work from logic. Doesn't mean that you don't love your children. You're doing it because you love your children. But we just express our love differently. We don't necessarily express it by being there to tuck them in every night. Sometimes you express it by going and buying a piece of land and ain't got no running water, electricity, and you living out there getting eaten up by mosquitoes every night because you're trying to build something for your family. While they back in the city or something with air conditioner and food delivery, and you in the middle of the woods hearing stuff scrape on the side of your tent. That's how we show our love. And it may be a very silent thing. Nobody knows about it. You're not making a live Facebook video about it. You ain't got to go and blast it to the world. It's quiet. We show our love differently, man. And I know, Anwar, you're welcome. I saw you said give thanks. I know you got it, but that's for anybody else in the room, and for any of you sisters listening whose son ever comes to you for some guidance and is faced with something like that. You go out and be a man. Go out and be a man. You know, and that may mean that, you know, you're not going to be around. You like God. You're never really around, but you always kind of around. So Lotus Scholar says, I agree with Chief because my father told me when he died, he's leaving me his suits. His suits, SMH. That's good. That means, I like when fathers, I'm gonna tell you something. When they build the empires and they set it up that you run in certain things, but they don't leave you too many tangibles. Because if you have siblings, then it's nothing to argue over. I seen some some families go through some rough arguments, arguing over material and the money that's left. I always told mine, I'm setting up structures. That's all you getting. It's very clear who's getting what. See, sometimes families do that too, man. Elders, they irresponsible when they transition. And they know that, well, if I don't have a will in place, they're gonna be fighting over everything. That's not fair. They might even know where the money's gonna come to bury me. That's not fair either. So we got to be responsible also as elders. Lo says, I know I can't do that for mine because I know how that feels. It just makes you angry as all hell. Well, man, give him a couple buildings, man. Tell him to chill. Or do like really wealthy people, to just give everything you have to charities, and then let them just all be mad at you. It draw them closer together. Lo says, going nomad is never a bad idea. Yep. See, you've been watching too much Sons of Anarchy. But yeah, man, the nomadic lifestyle, man. Some of you brothers are actual nomads, man. Remember, we all come from different regions and different nations, and you have certain nations on the continent and outside of the continent, but just certain people are nomadic people. I got friends like that. I have a friend who lives out of a backpack. You would never know it by seeing him. I don't know how he does it. But he has a way where he just gets everything into the bag, and then he has little storage spots, and he's all over America and different countries. And it's perfectly normal for him. That's his stability. Some men are nomadic. I mean, that's how some people are nomadic. I know women like that who they go crazy, sit still too long, especially Oya women. They can't sit still too long. They like moving around a lot. They can't usually don't keep an apartment longer than 6 months. Pay attention to that stuff. There's nothing wrong with it. Good show for you to check out. Movie, and I'm gonna get off. I think I mentioned this movie before. They Live. Movie came out back in the day with Keith David and Rowdy Rodney Piper. Rowdy Rodney Piper. But there's look at when he puts on the sunglasses. I'm not going to go through the whole premise of the movie because a lot of you probably saw it. I know I have mentioned it before, but look at when he put on the sunglasses, some of the messages that were being displayed in the advertising, the subliminal messages. Get married, have children. You see, that's part of this society's way of keeping your genius locked down. They tell you, oh, you got to reproduce, you got to have children, you got to make more batteries for this, get married. Why? That joint don't work anyway. Because once you start doing, let me tell you something, once you get married by the state, you introduce toxins into your marriage. It ain't going to work. Because you already know the low vibrational spiritual energy of the state. So why would you get a license? What is a license? Approval. Why would you want approval from a low vibrational parasite? That's what now lords over your union with you and your wife or your husband. Just a small example. Check out They Live. Anyway, we covered a lot. All right. I think if you rewind, and you go back through and listen to some of the things that were shared, I think you'll get a lot out of each little gem. We'll be back tomorrow at 1. I see you. Yeah, y'all still going on. You still going on about these suits, man? Let that go, brother. Michelle said, "Lo, the scholar, the monkey costume. Do they come with chains? I mean ties? Yeah, that's what I call ties, nooses." Michelle, I will burn that SHYT. LOL. It's just to remind me of bad memories of problems I had with him. So yeah, FUK, them country ass suits. I can buy my own. Oh man, take that elder suits, man. He probably feel like he really, giving you something, man. Drop them off to a men's shelter. There'd be some brothers that could use them for some interviews, But yeah, man, at least you won't be fighting and arguing over anything, if you keep the suits. Or if you ever go to like an old school party, you have something around, man. Some stuff come around, man. Fashion sometimes in cycles. Keep them suits, man. They may be popular in the future, you know. But it just increases your drive to go out and get something, man. That's all. You know. I ain't get my youth none of my clothes. All right. They ain't getting none of my clothes, man, because they can't rock them the way I'm rocking, man. I don't want nobody trying to take my whole style like that, man. So I want to be buried with all my clothes. I want to be buried with a lot of things, actually. You know how they say you can't take it with you? I'm pretty much gonna take most of my stuff with me. I don't want to. I don't want if I. I'm one of them lovers that you'd be like, yo, if things don't work out for me with us, I just want you to be happy. I'm not one of them. If things don't work out with me, I don't want you to ever be happy again. So I'm saying with my stuff. If I die, you die with me. All right. So I want to be buried with all my gators. I want to be buried with my suits. I want to be buried with my instruments. I want to be buried with my motorcycles. I want to be buried with. I'm looking around the room right now. This Bose speaker set I got. I like these speakers. I don't want them playing their crappy music on my good speakers. I want to be buried with my speakers. What else? Oh, I got a bottle of Louisiana hot sauce here. I want to be buried with my hot sauce. I'm taking this with me. Yep. I'm gonna need all this in the afterlife. I'm gonna need all this, man. Shoot. What else? I don't know. I'm gonna have to make a list. You know what I'm gonna do? This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put a sticker. I'm gonna get like a special sticker and a logo, a death sticker. Maybe picture of Grim Reaper. And everything that got a stick on it, they're gonna know it. So you better dig a deep, wide hole. Put all that stuff that got a stick on it. We're gonna make it real easy. I ain't gotta fight over none of it. Everything that got a stick on it goes in the grave. See, you make it simple for your kids, man. My washer and dryer, I'm taking with me because they abuse that stuff, man. They don't know. I tell them clean the lint filter out. They don't clean the lint filter, and then they overfill the washer, and the doggone spin thing is loose now. So just take it with, just put it in the grave with me because you don't know how to treat stuff. I want my washer and dryer. Man, I'm gonna have to go through everything, Oh, and I guess I should probably take my shrine stuff too. I might leave that though. Y'all can have my lekes. Yeah, I might leave that stuff, man. But yeah, I want all my nudie pics that women have been sending me over the years. Those come with me. I'm gonna need those in the afterlife too for proof. Because some women try to front on you. No, I had you when we was on Earth. Was on Earth. I was pure. She wasn't pure. Look at this. I bring my phone. Look at this. Yeah, she was sending me pics. She wasn't pure. Send her down to the lower level of heaven. Yeah, I become a snitch up in heaven. Yeah, I'm taking a lot of stuff with me, man. They ain't keeping none of it. Definitely my whiskey. My whiskey's coming with me. Yeah, they ain't gonna be celebrating, toasting over my palm wine and whiskey. That's coming with me, man. Yeah, man. So don't worry about it, brother. All right, so we're gonna head out, and you all enjoy yourself this evening, man. And make sure you rest well. I bet you're gonna have some real creative dreams tonight. I bet you will. Some real creative night visions. Maybe you tell them about me. Tell me about them. I need some more doggone sea moss. I'm getting dumb again. All right, I'm almost out. Doggone it, I'm almost out. Sequoia, are you going to get those vintage? Oh, the sewing machines. You're right. Now those coming with me. The African fabrics, Good question, Sequoia. I'm glad you reminded me. I think I'm gonna take those. I'm gonna take the sewing machines and the fabrics. Yeah, I think I'm gonna take the sewing machines and the fabric. Let me see. Let me think about this. Maybe I might leave the fabrics to my daughters, but I don't know. That one I'm gonna have to think about. I want most of my stuff. I want my pistols with me. And when I get buried, I want 2 razors stuck in the side of my mouth. I'm telling you. I told somebody that I was dead serious. I told the Babylon friend of mine, I said, look, man, when you bury me, you make sure you put 2 oxes in the side of my mouth. Because I swear, if I go up there and they try to send me back to earth, there's gonna be some goddamn angels falling from the sky. Effed up, bleeding. I swear I'm gonna jump, I'm gonna jump out of heaven. I'm gonna spit them razors out of my mouth. They talking about, yo, you need to go back to earth to come back and do psh, you gonna see some angels gonna catch some $150s. All right. You ever heard that term, a fallen angel? You're gonna see some fallen angels that day. You be like, damn, it's all this lightning and thunder. What the hell is going on up there? Oh, I think they tried to send Chief Yuya back to Earth. I'm like, nah, you better send my ass to Mars. I'm out. I'm leaving. No, Chief, there's one more thing you were supposed to do down on Earth. You know, you remember when you were supposed to help that old lady into the elevator? That was actually the one thing that would have made you not have to resurrect. Listen. Listen, y'all about to get effed up in here. Y'all better get out of the way. Move, man. Move. There better not be no heavenly bouncers at the door, and move out the way. You about to get sliced up. I told my man, I was like, yo, bury me with 2 oxes in my I'm nice with them razors. I could spit them out quick. There's gonna be some fallen angels out this mother effer. Trust me. They're gonna be falling to earth, their wings gonna be all effed up. Because they're not going to be ready for something like that. You know what I mean? They're not going to really expect it. They're going to expect me to be humble. I'm not going to be humble about it. I'm telling you, I get to heaven, heaven's going to be completely different once I get there. I'm changing everything. I'm changing the whole color scheme, everything. I'm changing it all around. I'm putting my name on the top. Welcome to Chief Yuya's heaven. Everything's going to be different, man. Forget all of that slow music and glow effect feature, that Instagram glow filter on the heaven. We ain't doing none of that, man. You know what I mean? It's gonna be me, Jimi Hendrix, Bob Marley, Marcus Garvey, Pac gonna be there. You know, I'm telling you, we're gonna blaze that spot up, man. They trying to send me back down. Then you're gonna see that story of Lucifer and and the 1/3 of heavenly hosts being cast down. Yeah. I'm gonna be mobbing up in there. Anyway, let me stop talking about that, man, because y'all gonna see all the numbers dropped on the show. So everybody got pissed off and got off. That's why I don't really talk. Y'all don't need to hear how I really look at things, man. But I'm not playing that. Do not send me back down. I'm done. Telling you right now, I'll stand right here in the doorway. If I don't go, ain't nobody. I'll create a blockage. Ain't nobody getting past me. You know, send me up to Mars. I'll take Mars. I'll take Uranus. I'll take Sirius. That's it. I ain't going nowhere else other than that. Unless it's someplace better than that. Let me say it. If it's someplace better than that, I'll take someplace better than that. Yeah. So bury me with some razors in my mouth. All right, all you my beautiful player haters. I'll see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. Make sure when you wake up in the dawning, you give your libations, man. And like I said, your parents are your deities in our culture, man. You know, so make sure you give them that energy, man. Even if they're not with you physically anymore, you know, you can give them that mental acknowledgement, man. And you know, don't listen to everything I say at the end of the show. You know, Bob was crazy. All right. Until such time, Hotep Poo.